So for the recording, I put it back to speaker view, but I can still see a few of you at the top of my screen, so I have someone to interact with. So welcome to the introduction to Touch for Health online. So this is based on kind of a standard introduction that we've been doing for quite a few years, especially in the United States, introducing some basic techniques of Touch for Health, mostly self-energizers, things we can do with ourselves without any muscle testing. But we will get into a little bit of self-assessing muscle function as an indicator, as a biofeedback, so that we can learn to coach other people online to check their own muscles as a biofeedback. So in the second half of the time here, we will be getting into that particular kind of self-testing, that kind of muscle testing. And then when I did the poll on the Facebook event, the overwhelming interest area was people wanted to see a full 14 muscle balancing session. So I am going to still keep it simple. There's a lot more details we might include in a session, but I am going to do a 14 muscle balancing session with someone who would volunteer, but of course, over the internet, over Zoom. And so we'll see, that will be an example of how you can do sessions or how you can teach classes over the internet. And I'm having a little trouble catching up with all the people still joining, but hopefully within about 5 minutes, everyone who's wanting to join will have joined. So, oh, there goes another one. So the first agenda was clearing up people logging in. And so that's on my list here. And so that's a little bit what we're still doing. As I'm talking, people are still coming into the waiting room, and then I'm logging them in as we go along. But that's, for me, I've found what I've read, that's the most secure way to make sure you don't have someone crashing your meeting and doing crazy things in the meeting. So welcome again, everyone, from actually.
Well, I don't know how to get it off.
Oh, someone needs to turn off their microphone in the background. There we go. So again, this is a group of people. It turns out I initially was thinking this would be people from California and maybe all the way to the East Coast. So I scheduled it a little bit earlier in California so that some East Coast people could join. But as it turns out, it's a very international group. So that's what happens when you post things on Facebook. People are not tied to a geographical area. So welcome everyone from all different times of day, time zones, geographies, languages. And I hope you'll enjoy this time together. I'm curious how many of you, and this will be a bit of a challenge because we have more than one screen, but how many of you have never had at least a Touch for Health level 1 class? If you'll raise your hand, I'll see. So only a couple total newbies in that sense. And I'm going to look at the other screen. Keep your hands up again. Anybody else on the next screen? Okay, so we have a few people. So this class, the idea of this is for you, for the newbie. I'm starting from absolute zero, and I'm keeping things very simple so people can see what are the simple things we can do with Touch for Health without any background or experience. Is there anyone here who's never even received a Touch for Health balance? No one's ever done any muscle testing on you and balanced any muscles. So I see some hands up there. I don't know, maybe you have to unclick them if that's not true. So there's a few people who, at least for the moment, are still keeping their hand clicked. From the bottom of the screen, you can click raise hand. So thank you for that. So that gives me a little bit of an orientation, but you can see the majority of the people on here have already had a Touch for Health level 1 class. So with that background, this will also serve as an example for you about how you can use those Touch for Health level 1 skills to share with other people in person, but also at a distance over Zoom. And we're going to go for about 4 hours. We'll see how the time goes. I usually have the fantasy that we can do more in the time available, but I'm just going to go at a relaxed pace and we'll do what we do in the time and we'll enjoy what we do. But each hour we are going to take a break and then we're going to end around noon in California time, of course. So that was my quick welcome statement. And I had in my notes that it's not going to be such a huge group, but we're actually slightly larger than I had anticipated. I thought we might all fit on one screen. So since there are some people on here who have never even had a Touch for Health balance, you might even be wondering, what is Touch for Health? Or if you have had a level 1 class or you're even a Touch for Health instructor, you might want to know, how does Matthew Thie explain what is Touch for Health? Because as some of you may know, my father, John Thie, was the one who first developed the Touch for Health system. And so I'm Matthew Thie, and so I'm from that family that's been using Touch for Health all my life. And so that's over 50 years now. So I have some different media I'm going to try out using. So that's to make it interesting for you to see different ways to display the information. And so for some of you who are instructors, you can consider whether you like using these different media where you would use that or not use it. For the most part, I've been doing some online classes for a year now, and I find what we can do in person, we can actually do over the audio-visual platforms. And Touch for Health still works excellent over Zoom. Although, of course, when I have the chance, I like to get together in person with the human being and actually physical touch for the purpose of health. But the next thing that I would like to do is do a little bit of a circle. And especially now that I'm realizing that we're such a large group, it's not going to be time effective to go around the whole circle and hear from everyone, even though I would really love to do that. So instead of having a circle and going around and hearing from each person individually, I'd like to take advantage of this platform that we have. And one of the cool features is that we can go into little breakout rooms and practice individually with a partner. So what I propose that we do to take advantage of this international community and make a little bit of connection with some of the other people out there is that we take about 5 minutes to break out into little rooms with a partner. And I know not everyone is even super fluent in English, but we'll do our best and just talk a little bit about why you've come and what do you want to get from this time. And then after you talk for a little bit, then we'll come back from the breakout and you can type in your expectations into the chat. And then I can, as we go along or on the break, I can look at what's in the chat, and that will orient me somewhat onto what I'm going to emphasize in the classroom. So let's see if I can make the breakout room work. So I'm going to do enough breakout rooms. Oh, it doesn't, for some, oh, there we go. So we'll be in pairs or groups of 3. So get ready, you're about to be transported to another Zoom room and meet with somebody else from, I don't know who you'll meet with, somewhere else in the world. So talk for a moment about what is your name, so you start to get to know another friend in our community of Touch for Health around the world, and what motivated you to come, what do you want to get from this workshop this morning. So if you don't mind sharing with me, but in the chat, what's your motivation for coming? What do you want to get from the class? That will help me just knowing who came and what was the interest level. And also, to some extent, to be able to tailor to the group, although we're a large group. So now, to introduce a little bit about this class and this work, I mentioned we've been doing Touch for Health my whole life. I grew up with Touch for Health, and So I actually have a little video, and if you can see all the little windows, Arlene and Larry are actually on here at the moment, and they've been some of my supporters over the years. They're instructor trainers on the East Coast, and one time they hosted me to give one of these introductions live in person, and we made a video of it. And I looked at it yesterday just to review my ideas about how I want to do an introduction. And I thought, well, this video might be fun to share. So I'm just going to share a little bit of this video from a while ago. And if you're talking on the phone, please turn off your microphone. So I'm going to screen share here and see if you guys enjoy this little video I have ready for you. And let's make this a little bit bigger. Hi, everybody. Thanks for coming out tonight. So we're going to learn a little about Touch for Health. What is Touch for Health? And more importantly, how can it benefit each of us? And so for me, growing up with Touch for Health is something we did at my home, and it's something my father practiced and really ran around the world sharing with other people, and even more than that, passing on to other people like Arlene and Larry Green and a few other people here who spread it all over the world. I've come to learn that most important aspect for me about Touch for Health is being present in a moment and being aware of how you're feeling, and then doing something about it. Doing something to move your muscles, doing something to move your energy, and then checking if you feel different. And that checking in with your awareness of how you're feeling and then checking back again is very powerful. And you'll see that in any kind of healing model probably. But just setting up that context makes such a difference. So for a context for tonight, I don't just want to inform you guys of my ideas of the history of Touch for Health or what I think we're doing, but I want you all to be able to have an experience, have an awareness of how you're feeling right now, and hopefully leave feeling a little bit different, and maybe with a couple of new tools or maybe a couple of new nuances of the tools you have. Because some of you here I know already know a little bit about muscle testing or posture balancing or energy balancing. So I'd like to invite you to join me, those of you who would like to stand, and just get a sense of how you're feeling. So that's just the part I thought that was a quick, short intro of what I wanted to say. And so that brings us into what's in it for you and what are the benefits you're going to get. So I would like to invite everybody on the call to go ahead and stand up with me, if you like, or you can stay comfortable in your chair. And just get a sense of your posture and your energy. So standing might be an ideal way to tune into your overall posture. Do you feel like you're standing up in a natural but balanced and comfortable way? Or do you feel some kind of tension somewhere in your body? What is your energy level at this hour of the morning or the evening? Do you feel like you have plenty of energy, or do you feel something's off with your energy? Maybe it's not flowing, or you're just feeling low energy. And how is your breathing? Take a moment to tune into your breathing. And we don't need to force the breathing or do anything about it, but just notice. Is your breathing deep, full, and relaxed? And then we're going to look at how these different techniques can help us right now in the moment and how we can help other people. So it can be helpful if, hang on one second. I think there's somebody who needs to mute their microphone. I don't see who it is though. I'm not finding them. Anyway, there's one person whose microphone wasn't muted, so if you don't mind, please mute that microphone. So tune in. If you have any tension, any physical tension or pain, notice where that is in your body and put a subjective number on it, 0 to 10, because we're going to be doing a lot of things to balance our energy and balance our muscles. And so if we have a concrete measure, even though our sense of what's going on, then we can notice more what is the benefit of this energy work. Because sometimes when we shift the flow and the energy, it's a little bit subtle. But if we have a measure of something, what's happening with our muscles, muscle tension, or what's happening with our emotions, for example, then we can see the change more readily. So notice where you have any tension or pain in the body, any discomfort, and 0 is no discomfort, so totally comfortable, and 10 is maximum pain or discomfort. And then also think about, is there any worry or concern that you might have, any problem, any stress that you're having? And kind of think about that for a moment and notice how you feel as you think about it and put a number on that as well. 0 worry or 10 worry or concern or stress that you're having. So now that we've taken some measures, we have a chance to see if some of these energy balancing techniques actually do anything. So the next thing I'd like to share with you are some different points that we can use to balance our energy. And so I'm going to use my screen share again here. And I'm going to just show you some pages that are on my homepage, on my website, under the tab of techniques. You can always go back and refer to them here. Although the suggestion for people joining this was that you have the Touch for Health Complete Edition. That's the text I'm working off for this. These are pages from the Complete Edition, so you can see them in the book, or for these exercises, you can even just see them on the website. So if I can find where is that page that I wanted to share with you. Oops, that wasn't the one I wanted to share. I'll share a different page. This is the one. Yeah, Firefox, that should be it. So this is just my home page I'm going to be displaying here for you. And if I can get it to move. There you go. That's probably good enough so you can see it. So what we're going to do is what I call zip up, switch on, and tune in. So in Chinese medicine, they have the idea of energy pathways in the body. So we found in kinesiology that you can actually just trace one of these energy pathways to get the energy moving in the body, and that these energy pathways actually relate to particular muscles. So that's one of the ways that we switch on your muscles. But as a general energizer, we can trace what's called the central meridian that starts at the pubic bone and goes up the center of the body. And you can trace that one 2 or 3 times with one hand as it's shown in the picture, or with both hands if you like. And you don't have to actually be touching the body because it's an energy pathway. So as long as you're within 2 or 3 inches of the body, tracing from the pubic bone up to below the lower lip, then taking the hands away and going back and tracing back up, you'll be zipping up your energy. You'll be raising your energy. So this is a very subtle way that you can get energy flowing in the meridians. And because central meridian is one that's attached to all the other meridians and helps modulate the energy in the other meridians, just by tracing the central meridian, you might actually feel something happening with your energy just while you're tracing the central meridian. Or you may feel something shift afterwards, even if you don't feel anything particular with your energy while you're tracing. And the other energizer that I'm going to encourage you to use all along, and I'm going to be using, is just drink some water. So as I'm talking and talking, of course, my mouth can get a little dry, so I'll be drinking water. But as you're doing energy work, as you're moving energy and balancing energy, it's very helpful to drink plenty of water. So now that you've zipped up, go back to your body, go back to your mind, go back to how you're feeling, your posture, and notice if anything has changed. And oftentimes when we're in a group together, we ask for feedback from people and notice a change. But for now, I'm just going to move on to the next thing. So we've done the zipping up central meridian, or tracing the central meridian. And now we're going to move on to switching on. So zip up, then switch on. So you can see in the picture, in this first picture, the woman has one hand over abdomen. And so in different energy systems, this part of the body has different names, but it's very often referred to as the center of the body, or center of the energy system. So my idea, when we put one hand over our abdomen, right here, is that we're tying into the whole energy system again. Just like with central meridian, we're moving energy in the whole system. We're tying into the whole system now. And then we're going to rub these 2 points as shown in the picture. So if you find the head of your clavicle, the collarbone here, those 2 bumps, and go down to the space between the ribs, and you can rub that with a finger on one side and the thumb on the other, or you can rub one side and rub the other, whatever is convenient. So we'll rub those 2 points. Those are endpoints of what's called the kidney meridian in Chinese medicine, or sometimes just by their number, K27. But another name for this point is palace of transformation. And it's a palace of transformation because these points are also connected to all the other meridians. And now we'll switch hands and repeat, because each hand has its own polarity. And by rubbing these master points, we're actually helping get in the energy flow in all of the major energy pathways. And so we call it switching on. We're switching on all the circuits of energy. But there's another meaning of the word switching, which could be there's some things that are switched around. So if there's some confusion left and right, if you have difficulty with reading, comprehension, or you get tired when you're reading, you can try just rubbing these switching points. And often you might find a raise in your energy, but also increase in your balance and focus. So after you've switched on that way, just notice again how you're feeling, and then we'll move on. You can see in the first 2 pictures here from the book that are on the web page, she switches hands, but she's rubbing the same point. So we'll do that with the other 2 points, but it only shows the first way, but then you switch hands. So the next points are still with one hand on the abdomen, but we'll rub just below the lower lip, that's an acupuncture point, and just above the upper lip. And you can do that with 2 fingers like it shows in the picture. And so these are points on the central and governing meridian. So again, central and governing, they govern the energy in all the other meridians. So by connecting and stimulating those, we'll get energy going in all the meridians. And then switch hands and repeat. And then the last point is the tailbone. So technically governing meridian starts at the tip of the tailbone, but I just use the whole back of my hand to rub at the tailbone. And you can't see exactly what I'm doing here, but you can imagine where it is. I got one hand over my abdomen, and the other hand is in the region of the tailbone. It doesn't have to be exactly there at the end, as long as it's in that area. And then switch hands and repeat. And this is the beginning of governing meridian, so this is going to help govern your energy in all of your major energy pathways and get the energy moving and flowing so you can feel your vitality. And then when the energy is flowing, it will find a balance based on what's happening right now today, and will help activate your natural healing system and bring you back to your nice, natural, balanced, neutral posture, which will relieve all kinds of tension. So therefore, you might find a reduction or a disappearance of all kinds of aches and pains from compensations that really aren't necessary. So if you can relax and come back to your neutral posture, it relieves all kinds of tension and pain. So we zipped up the central meridian and we switched on with several different switching points. including the tailbone. And now we're going to do what I like to call tuning in. It's sometimes in the book referred to as the auricular exercise because it has to do with working with the ears. So auricular has to do with ears. But I like to call it tuning in when we do it as an energizer for ourselves. So we did a measure at the beginning. Do you have any aches or pains, worries or concerns? But we're going to do another measure, but this time it's going to be a more concrete measure. Some of you who've been doing this for a while, you may have easily noticed the shift when you zipped up and you switched on. But for some people, especially when you're first starting out, the shift can be a little bit subtle. So it's nice to have what we call a muscle test to have some kind of concrete measure of what changes. So the first measure we're going to do is just turn the head to the left and the right. And you might call this a functional muscle test. When you're using certain muscles to move in certain direction, you see how they function. Can you move? What is the range of motion? What is the level of comfort? Or is there even pain and tension when you turn the head to the left and right? So notice how far that goes, how comfortable it is, or if there's any pain. And in fact, that's kind of the textbook range of motion we use for this exercise of tuning in or auricular exercise. But you can use this exercise for any range of motion. So if you're having, maybe if it's early in the morning for you, or a time that you have maybe even some stiffness in hands and fingers, you can just sort of check, how does that feel? If you're working on with the shoulder, what's going on with the shoulder, you can check some ranges of motion with your shoulder, or rotating at the hips. So this can actually work for any range of motion because it's a general balancing of the entire energy system in the body. So now that you've checked some ranges of motion, we're going to stretch our ears out. And I'm going to go ahead and stop the screen share so you can watch me more closely stretching my ears. So we're doing two things with the ear stretching. One is we're actually stretching the ears a little bit, pulling them away from where they're attached to the head. And the other is you're kind of unfolding them and kind of giving the whole ear a massage, because there's a whole series of acupuncture points all through the ears. And there's something called auricular acupuncture where they balance the body's energy just working with the ears. And now my ears are starting to warm up, and I don't know if you can see on the screen that maybe even getting some more circulation in there, more blood flow, and looking a little bit more pink. So that's an indication they're getting warmer, something's happening. At least there's a change in circulation, but we think that also corresponds to a change in circulation in the whole body, especially of that qi, the life energy from Chinese medicine. So now go ahead and recheck the range of motion, and sure enough, at the very least, that was much more comfortable for me. And I'm going to try to see if I can get onto the group view, gallery view, and see some of the people turning their heads. And I'll just see my hands, how they feel, and my shoulders, how do my shoulders feel? How do I feel going like this and like this? And sure enough, I do feel more relaxed. And even the nervousness I have about teaching my class in front of a big group of people and trying to manage all the different technology and so forth, I'm feeling a little bit more calm, a little bit more centered. I don't know if you hear it in my voice, that the voice is a little bit more calm. Maybe there's even a different quality of the sound of the voice now that I've balanced my energy or got energy moving a little bit more. So I would like to check in if anybody would want to share, if you'll raise your hand and then I'll call on you and you can turn on your mic. If you noticed anything changing when we did that, though, after doing all those exercises, because we took the time to check into our posture and our energy. Let's see, I don't see any hands up. Oh, I see one hand up. Thank you. So Noelle, turn on your microphone. What did you feel?
Definitely noticed better range of motion in my neck. My neck and upper shoulder tends to be really tight. So when I first turning to the right was really stiff and kind of painful. And then after we did the exercise, it was definitely less so, definitely a better range of motion. A lot of yawning during the different warm-up exercises. And I just feel brighter and clearer and more alert now too.
Oh, thank you for sharing that. And what does the yawning mean to you? Does it have any particular meaning that you're yawning?
Um, I'm a second year student of energy medicine. So their interpretation is that it's moving energy and releasing, energy. So that's what I take from it.
Yeah, me too. But people, when they first start out, sometimes they're surprised so much yawning. They think, oh, this is making me tired or I'm getting bored. But usually it's not that. Usually it's a sign of some energy being released, moving, shifting. So it's another thing to notice, okay, something's happening. Okay, thank you for sharing that, Noelle. Anybody else want to share how they feel after doing the exercises? Okay, so maybe Noelle is the only one who isn't shy. I don't see anybody else's hand up. So I will just share
Mona
again.
has her hand.
Mona, okay. Mona, go ahead and turn your mic on. Thank you.
Okay. Good evening, good morning. Hi. I feel much more energetic. It's almost 7 p.m. I'm awake since 2:30 a.m. because we had a 15-hour conference. I expected to be very tired because I went from one conference, joined Matthew. I noticed immediately when I did the zip up, I felt more centered. And when I did the unrolling of the ears, I have a bigger range of movement and I feel much more energized, and I feel really present and focused, just as I have rested the whole day rather than joining a conference. So it's really, after all these years, it's still working all the time.
Yeah, and is that a surprise to you?
I think I should be fixed somehow, but no, it saved a lot of money for coffee.
Wonderful. Okay, thank you for sharing that. Okay. So, I'm seeing in the chat some other people wrote down more fluid, neck is moving much easier, range of motion. And for people who've been doing this forever, we sometimes forget that it's not only for turning the head to the left and right, but we can use it for other ranges of motion as well. And it's for me too, even after all these years, it's kind of surprising. Well, I shouldn't have tension collected in my neck and shoulders because I've been doing this kind of work, but we human beings collect tension, so you have to keep using your tools. If you use these tools on a regular basis, then when you have extra stress and tension, you will remember to use them. So I recommend, even when you're feeling good, keep using these tools. You learn these 3 things. If those are the only 3 things you take from today, those are great tools you can use every day to keep in good balance. And when you're feeling some stress, if you remember to use them, they can be really, really useful. Now, some of you may have got some improvement or not noticed as much, but there may still be a difference between left and right. So to just build on this technique a little bit more, if you're still noticing that there's some tension or pain left over or more on one side or the other, like let's say I had more tension to the left side, I'm going to turn my head to that side, we call the affected side, where there's still some tension, and I'm going to stretch my ear on that side with my head a little bit turned, not to be painful, but just to kind of activate what's going on that side where there's more tension, and I'll stretch that side. And this is the kind of typical way with the hand on that side is convenient, but you can do the Canadian way, which is to reach around from the opposite side and stretch the ear from that side, and it even pulls your head a little bit in that direction. And I say it's the Canadian way because it was 2 Canadian Touch for Health instructors who showed me to do it that way. And then now if I recheck, sure enough, it feels warmer and easier to turn. Now, part of that might have been from pulling my ear with my head turned that way, but we think also energetically it's helping. But now I have the desire to improve this side. So I'll turn this side and I'll reach around and I'll stretch on this side. but I'll admit someone to the group and then I'll stretch some more. And now I'm almost getting into that owl range where it's feeling just really loose and comfortable. And I can almost look behind my shoulder where I felt much more restricted and a little more tight when we began. So that's how you can just do more. Later, we'll see how we can use the muscle as a biofeedback to get an indication whether there's more to do with those techniques. But we can do them just like that with no other muscle test other than a functional test of a range of motion before and after we do the technique. So that's zip up, switch on, and tune in. And if I can manage the gallery and see, are there any questions or concerns at this time before we move on? I haven't given very much intro to what is Touch for Health, but I wanted to just start having an experience. So Noelle, I saw your hand.
Thank you. Yeah. I've had like a annoying kink pain in my hip for a while. Will this work as like all the way down the body, or would that need a different technique?
So were you aware of that kink or pain in your hip at the beginning, and did you put a number?
Yes, it's about an 8, and it's still around that.
Okay, so you zipped up and that didn't seem to affect that kink in your hip.
Correct.
And then you switched on and you went back, kink is the same.
Yeah.
And then did you do some movement to kind of test the kink in your hip?
Yeah, I did do a little bit. It's
And you stretched your ears.
yes.
And then you rechecked.
Yes.
And you still feel the same in 8.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. But did you notice, you said before you noticed some other changes, some other improvements.
Yes, definitely in the neck area.
So there is hope for you.
Definitely.
Things can change. So the indication that something changed is a positive indication, and that there's energy flowing now, that there's a better flow of energy, and the natural healing system is going to be in a better balance and better able to function. So if we can't do anything more, we can just trust that the body will heal itself in its time, and we've done something to support the body's healing process. So although you may not get an immediate benefit, which often the fun thing about Touch for Health is so much of the time we do get immediate benefits in the moment, and sometimes they're really just surprising. Like sometimes a pain in the hip like that, you just switch on and it's gone. And you don't have to worry about, well, why did I have that pain or where did it come from? Because it's gone, so just enjoy your life. But sometimes it doesn't disappear so quickly, but you can have some confidence. My body does heal itself. I've done something to support it. Now I can just give it some time. So over time, keep observing it from just what we've done now. That energy may catch up to that and you may see some improvement later. But of course, we've just begun. This is just the tip of the iceberg of all the things we might do in Touch for Health. So if the simple energizers that we do every day before every session, when we wake up in the morning, before we go take a test, if those didn't quite do it, there are certainly some more things we can do to tune into what's going on with that hip. And maybe we need to be more holistic about, well, what's the story with that hip and how does it tie into your life, and have kind of some positive focus. So maybe a more holistic focus in your life is what's going to help bring about that change. Thanks for the question. Thank you.
Thank you.
Other question, concern? Okay, I looked at the second screen, don't see anyone. Okay, so we'll move on. So as I said in the beginning, one of our very important energizers is water. And we'll come back to water a few times just because I get thirsty, so I'll keep mentioning it. But, you know, water is a great conductor of electricity. And so when we're doing energy work, it's helpful to have water, plenty of water in the body, just so energy can flow. And when we're relieving stress and releasing things in the body, you want plenty of water so that you can flush out any toxins that are being released. And you may have to visit the bathroom a little bit more, but that's actually a good thing. You're releasing what it is that you don't need, that's not serving you. So we've had a little experience, and at least one or two people noticed some change. Some things changed immediately, and some things it might take a little longer for that change to occur, but perhaps they still will change because we've had this awareness of what's going on. We brought our attention to it. So where your attention goes, where your intention goes, your energy also follows. So just by tuning into that hip and what's going on there, that might also start activating the healing system. But then doing things to move the energy with that focus is going to amplify that benefit. But since some people maybe have never heard of Touch for Health, just somebody said, hey, you should go on and find out about it. I've prepared a very short PowerPoint. Personally, I'm a little bit shy about using PowerPoint, especially over the Zoom, but sometimes a few PowerPoint screens can be an efficient way to get the information across. So I just want to say a few words from using my support of the PowerPoint to get my main points across about what is Touch for Health, where did it come from, and most importantly, how can it help you? So I'm going to try this screen share again, and let's see if I can find my PowerPoint. Yep, that's my PowerPoint. And here it is, but I need to make it a little bit bigger so you can see the whole thing. Oh yeah, I need to put on the presentation button. So there we go, there's my PowerPoint is open. And we're back here, the title is, of course, Introduction to Touch for Health Online, with your host and instructor, Matthew Thie. And those letters behind say, I'm a master of education. So hopefully my mastery is coming through in this presentation. And you can see there my website, which the energizers you've seen so far, they're on the homepage of my website. So that's one reference. If you don't have the book already, or you don't get the book, you can at least refer back to my website for those particular techniques. So we start with the magical question, what is Touch for Health? Well, Touch for Health is, first of all, it's a system of balancing. So that's different than a treatment system, a therapy system where we diagnose what's wrong with you and we treat that condition. Instead, what we do is balance in Touch for Health, the whole human being. So we balance your posture, that's the physical upright posture, your muscles, including spinal alignment, and when your spine's in line, you'll feel fine. We also balance your attitude. So what is your thinking? What are the messages that you're giving yourself? How are you feeling about your life? And we do something to help balance that, to improve that attitude, that mental emotional state. And we're balancing your energy. Excuse me. So when I say energy, that has a lot of different meanings, but it means what is your sense of vitality? Do you feel like you have energy? Are you alert? Are you awake? But we're also referring to what's called qi. In the system of Chinese medicine, acupuncture, qi is the life energy. It's what you have when you're alive, and when you're not alive, you don't have. And the idea is when your qi energy, your life energy is flowing in the body, you will naturally have a balanced posture. You will naturally have vitality and a positive, happy attitude towards life. And if you're not full of energy and vitality, it means something's out of balance, something's blocked. So we want to get the qi energy flowing so it can find a balance for what you want to achieve in your life. And this, of course, helps to release stress that we're hanging on to, excess tension, which results in relieving all kinds of different pains, so that you feel and you function better on a physical, mental, emotional level. And that will help you to enjoy your life fully. So really, the purpose of Touch for Health is to enjoy life. But we have a lot of little details that help us to do that. So Touch for Health also is a model of self-care. So although and I saw in the chats, people were talking about their different trainings in kinesiology and different energy work. And so there's a lot of professionals who use the muscle testing, the touch reflexes, Touch for Health specifically. There's something called a Touch for Health instructor and a Touch for Health consultant. So people work professionally in a practice using this. But it's in a model that everyone can learn these simple techniques that we're teaching. So there will be practitioners who do sessions with you, but they're always going to be sharing what it is they're doing, like I'm sharing how we rub these points, so that not only can you receive a balance and feel better, but you take away the tools with you and learn to implement those tools in your life to be more in balance and enjoy life better. So it's a model of empowering the individual, their perception and their appreciation and development of their own unique purposes in the quality of their experience of life. So you've already experienced a little taste of how we can use these little tricks, these little ways to interact with our energy and our muscles to improve our quality of life, our comfort right now in the moment, our energy level right now in the moment. But where that's most powerful is where we also help it to find what is our path in life that will allow us to thrive and really have the optimum experience of life, to reach our goals, to find out what are our dreams, what is our vision, and then to move in that direction where we're going to thrive. So a little history of Touch for Health. We call it Touch for Health Kinesiology, so people kind of get an idea just from the name. It's touching each other for the purpose of health using some kinesiology. And what is kinesiology? If you just analyze the term, it just means the study of movement. But in the university, what they're studying is body mechanics. When the muscles contract, how do they affect movement in the body? What is the mechanics of specific muscles and muscles working together, like in the rhythm of walking, in different like sport activities that you might do? And so we draw as our main source the physical therapist Kendall and Kendall, who developed a book called Muscle Testing and Function, and they gave it the name kinesiology. So we use the manual muscle test to get a sense of how are the physical muscles functioning. However, in Touch for Health, we're using them not so much to see is a muscle broken, paralyzed, which that's what Kendall and Kendall were using the muscle test for, to see, oh, is this muscle injured? Is it paralyzed? And then what rehabilitation of which specific muscle do we need to do to get back the full function? We're using it in a little bit different way. And if I can get my clicker to work, which was kind of discovered by a man by the name of George Goodhart, a chiropractor, who developed something called applied kinesiology. And applied kinesiology is a system of using the muscle testing, but then using different touch reflexes to actually change the function of the muscle in the moment. So you may have noticed I had a limit range of motion here. We did something, we rubbed all the points in our ears, and there was a change in the function. More relaxed, more comfortable, more range of motion. So we can do that isolating with specific muscles, and we have different reflex points that correspond to different muscles. So that's what George Goodhart found out. When he first started testing muscles as a chiropractor, he would palpate the muscle, and he found some tender points. By massaging those points, oftentimes the muscle regained its function. He said at first, using a muscle test, this muscle seems like very weak or paralyzed, but then he'd massage the muscle involved and the muscle regained its strength. So he said, wow, this is something different. I'm applying the kinesiology in a balancing model to improve the function of the muscles and therefore improve the overall balance of the posture. So my father was also a chiropractor, and he was already getting really great results just balancing the spine with spinal manipulation, other chiropractic techniques. When he saw what George Goodhart was doing with the muscle testing and the touch reflexes, he said, wow, this is a whole new world. And when he started using it, it absolutely was, he was getting even much better results using these techniques as part of his chiropractic. But what he also found was that a lot of the simple things he was doing, like rubbing certain points, his clients could also do for themselves. And I just came to the next PowerPoint bullet point here of what I already mentioned, muscle balancing using different touch reflex. So George Goodhart started out knowing where the muscle is, working directly on the muscle, which you could call origin insertion technique. And then he started integrating other existing reflex systems, one called neurolymphatics, and then also from Chinese medicine, actually physically tracing with your hand the pathway of the meridian. So back to what I was saying about my father, John Thie. He saw that so many of the techniques that George Goodhart was pioneering that were so great for chiropractors and physicians were simple and safe enough that he could share them with his clients. So he put together a book called Touch for Health. And on Friday nights, he would show people how to use the reference to the muscle test and the points and say, go ahead, take this book and balance yourselves. And maybe you won't need me, or maybe you'll just come in when you have a big challenge, or you have something that this is not addressing. Maybe you have a hip issue that the simple self-balancing isn't enough. So then go ahead to the expert. And right away, people said, well, I want to do what you're doing. He said, yeah, I'm showing you how to do it. Here's the book. He said, no, I want to teach other people how to use that book. And he said, and I'm using these ESR points, and we'll come back to those soon, but I'm going to use them because I need them right now. He said, wow, if I teach you to teach, who will I teach? And then he realized it's just in California, there was such a big market, he could never reach everyone by himself. So he said, yes, we should teach lay people to teach other lay people how to use these techniques because it's so simple and easy and effective. The human beings should have access to these. We need to share them out so people can get them. So to this day, we are training Touch for Health instructors who don't have to have any professional background. Just start from zero, take the basic Touch for Health classes. If you love it, if you love muscle testing and using the points and balancing people, you can become an instructor and teach other people to do the same thing. So in all these years, the Touch for Health has spread all over the world because so many people did love it, and they brought it to Europe, and they brought it to Australia, and they brought it to Asia. And so we have Touch for Health instructor trainers, people training people to instruct Touch for Health all around the world through our International Kinesiology College. And something else has developed coming from that model, kind of the holistic energy balancing model, and also the empowering of the individual for self-care model, a field of energy kinesiology. And here's just a couple of pictures of, this is John Thie, my father, way back when he was first starting in his chiropractic practice. And here's my mother. And I think this is my brother Luther here, growing in there. And so that dates the picture a little bit. And that was just when he was first starting to get to know George Goodhart and learn about applied kinesiology, which he was a big promoter of applied kinesiology for the chiropractors, and then developed Touch for Health. And then this is a picture of him at a applied kinesiology seminar with the famous George Goodhart. So I'm talking about holistic, balancing overall the whole body, not trying to diagnose and treat a condition. So in applied kinesiology, and actually many holistic health models, they use what's called the triangle of health. And it's just a model to show that you can't only look at one part of the human being and fix that one part and expect the overall health and balance for the person to be maintained. So you have to look at the structural part, the physical posture, but you also have to look at the physiology, the biochemistry, the diet, what foods people are working and how their internal organs are working. And you have to also consider the mental emotional side. And each of these sides of the whole person can affect the other one. So if you're down and you're emotionally imbalanced, that can affect how well you digest your food. Or if you eat foods that aren't optimum, that can affect your mood. So every one of these aspects of the whole person can affect the other aspects. So we want to look at the different aspects of the human being, balance each of those so we have holistic balance. Another way to look at that is as each of those sides of the holistic balancing, we have different roots in Touch for Health that influence how we work. So I mentioned chiropractic, George Goodhart, postural balancing, but then using the muscles and the reflexes. And then I've mentioned a little bit less, but George Goodhart integrated into his model some elements of traditional Chinese medicine, the idea of balancing the life energy, the qi. When your qi is in balance, you will have vitality. And so using the meridians directly, the energy pathways, certain acupuncture points, and then something called the 5-element theory, which if you're curious, we'll learn down the line in Touch for Health. But then something that's a little bit less emphasized, less mentioned, something called person-centered psychology. And that's the idea of that your own self-awareness and is actually quite powerful for balancing your energy. And that using self-responsibility, in other words, not trying to diagnose, treat, fix the person, but respectfully just listen and reflect to the person to raise their own awareness and find their own solution, is actually amazingly powerful for balancing the emotions, for balancing the energy, and balancing the posture. And a big part of that is developing positive goals supporting the person to develop their own vision in life rather than tell them what they need to do to fix their life. And here's just another way to look at the triangle of health for Touch for Health, because we have those different aspects, but looking at the history, we have the energy model on one side that's influencing, that we're using basic, simple, but powerful things from energy. You have the postural side from chiropractic. We use certain things in Touch for Health, other things like some techniques from applied kinesiology or medicine, drugs, we don't use any of that, but we use what I think are the most powerful part for ongoing holistic wellness. And then we have the mental emotional side, what we could call positive psychology. And that's again the idea that there are simple things that we can do for ourselves without analyzing people mentally or emotionally, but just being aware of ourselves that are going to help balance our energy. And I mentioned before, we have this whole field of energy kinesiology, and on Earl Cook's website, eattouchforhealth.com, you can find an interactive tree to find, and this is just a small example of some of the different alphabet soup of kinesiologies that have grown out of this model of Touch for Health. So that keep in touch is my clue. That's the end of my PowerPoint presentation. So I'm going to stop the share. And we've come to 10 minutes after the first hour. So best practice on video is to take a break every hour. So I'm a little bit past the time. So this is a convenient time. We're going to take a 10-minute break so I can get back on my schedule. And then we'll come back and we'll do some more exciting movement and activity. So have a nice 10-minute break. I'll see you at 20 minutes past the hour. Okay, welcome back. And I'm standing a bit back from the screen now, so I'm trying to speak louder to make sure it's registering my voice. And so hopefully on the break, you got a chance to stand up and move around and get a break from sitting in a chair and watching the monitor. And so whether you did or not, I'm going to invite you all to do a little bit of that now. If you'll stand up, we're going to do a physical activity we call cross crawl, which is one of the basic energizers we do all the time in Touch for Health. And you might want to stand up and get a sense again of your energy. Maybe you collected some tension from sitting and staring at the screen, or maybe you're feeling better than you were at the beginning, but just notice, how's your body feeling? Is it comfortable? How's your sense of circulation and energy? And then we're going to do cross crawl, meaning cross the center of the body with the hand and touch the opposite side of the body. So we're using opposite arm and leg. So that's going to make sure that we're using both sides of the brain at the same time. And by doing that and getting a rhythm, it helps to integrate both sides of the brain so that our thinking is more clear. But also we're using these large muscles. And by using those large muscles, we're not only moving the blood in circulation, but we're moving the lymph in the body. So we're clearing out anything that's not helpful and useful anymore in the body and clearing that out. So we're increasing circulation, we're increasing energy, we're increasing brain integration. But in Touch for Health, especially in level 1, we call this cross crawl for fun. So a big part of this is to have some fun with it. So we first start by anchoring that we're touching the opposite side, but then we can do any set of movements where we're using opposite arm and leg. Try to have some fun with it. You can do really big movements where you're reaching forward and kicking the opposite leg back and have some fun that way. You can try even jumping. If you have that much energy and you don't have too much furniture in the way, opposite arm and leg and putting a little jump into it. For some people, it's a little bit challenging to touch their foot behind their back, opposite foot coming behind their back. Maybe the flexibility is a challenge. You can go back and stretch your ears. But you may find that just 3 minutes of this cross crawl, and if you want to really emphasize crossing the midline, which some people say that's more helpful for brain integration. Oh, for me, it just gave me a spinal adjustment. Oh, I feel like my spine's in better alignment just by going through this range of motion. So any different movement you can think of using opposite arm and leg. So you can go straight forward. Maybe you can see my shoe coming into the camera there, going forward. You can try, twisting. Some people even make animal sounds. The trainer in France, Xavier, he does the monkey cross crawl. For some people, that's just a little too fun. And then go back and check how you're feeling. You may need to drink a little bit of water and catch your breath because it's a little bit of exercise. But you may also find it wakes you up, raises your energy. And since we're aware of what's bothering us, the aches and pains, you can also notice, does this actually reduce aches and pains? Maybe just by doing physical movement, it's increased endorphins, happy hormones. So you don't feel pain as much. Well, that's what we're doing. That reinforces the fact that just doing plenty of physical activity is good for the body and makes you feel better, reduces pain. Of course, on the other hand, if the movement is painful, be careful. Take it easy. Don't injure yourself. So you have to measure what's the appropriate amount of movement and activity. But also, it will give you some idea, if there's something out of balance, is there something we need to focus on to balance? So that's our first energizer coming back from the break. And then the next energizer we're going to do is just a general neurolymphatic massage. So the neurolymphatic points are some reflex points developed by an osteopath, I believe he was an osteopath or a chiropractor by the name of Chapman. And he used these points in the hospital with people who had different types of conditions, and he correlated certain types of points related to certain points on body, areas of the body related to different conditions. And Goodhart integrated these points. I just realized I've been on a little tiny screen this whole time on the recording. We'll see how the recording comes out, but it could be interesting for everyone to see everybody doing some cross crawl. But now it's on speaker view for this lecture part at least. And so the neurolymphatic points, Chapman believed that by rubbing these tender points at different places on the body, he got the lymph flowing in the body into particular organs, and it improved organ function and it improved many conditions just by rubbing these points. So they're called neurolymphatic points because of the way we use them. We're using these points that we believe are related to the lymphatic system. And I just realized there's a big light behind me, so I'm going to switch back over to here. And he used those neurolymphatic points for the lymph system, but we're using them to affect neurology. And if you didn't remember to turn your phone off before, now is a good time to remember to turn it off. And so when we test the muscle and there's some imbalance in the muscle, then we rub certain neurolymphatic points and we see a change in the muscle. It's changing the function of the muscle. Therefore, we believe it's changing the neurology. So we call them neurolymphatic points. Right now, we're just going to use them as a general massage for general improvement. So you can use this just as a general balance, and be sure to drink plenty of water when you do this because it's stimulating the lymph system all throughout the body. So you might be flushing out, because that's part of what the lymph system does. Like the sewer system, it flushes out toxins. So drink plenty of water to assist flushing out. And we can use it just as a general balance, but also particularly for pain control. Doing this general neurolymphatic massage that I'm going to show you right now has been found over and over again to be a very quick and very effective way to control pain, to reduce pain. So if you have that hip pain that's hanging on, maybe you do this massage and tune back into it. And I'm seeing again, somebody's got their mic on, making some funny noises. If If I can find him, I'll mute him. No, I don't see him. I don't know why. Okay, I'm just going to go back to full screen speaker. So I'm going to screen share again. I'm going to show you another page that's just under the techniques tabs on my home page. It shows all the neurolymphatic points. It's in your Touch for Health book. And of course, it's in your Touch for Health Level 1 manual. So here goes the screen share. I'm going to go back to the home page, which is on Firefox. So I'll share that. So here are all your neurolymphatic points. And so there's a whole bunch of them you see there, and they're relating to 42 different muscles that we test in Touch for Health. Today, we're not going to worry about all 42 muscles, but I will show you a kind of a general balance, not having to test all 42, but balancing 14 muscles, one muscle for each of the major energy pathways as a way to balance the general posture and to balance the life energy in the body. But if we don't know about those muscles yet, then we can just go straight to the neurolymphatic points, because that was their original use, just massaging the particular points, and the ones that were tender, massaging those more and seeing a change in the function. So let's go through these points. The first set of points to find are right by your kidney 27 point. So if you're familiar with where the end point, the switching point is here, that's a little bit wider. You want to come close, just below the head of the clavicle, below the rib there, in the first indentation between the ribs, but now rubbing close to the sternum, close to the sternum. And just notice if it's tender. If it's not that tender, you don't have to spend too much time there, because maybe it's not so active. Maybe there's not so much going on with that particular circuit. So then go down to the next indentation between the next two ribs, close to the sternum again, and massage there. And actually, maybe it'll be better if I stop the screen share and you can see me as we go through. Because I'm going to do it in maybe a simpler way than all those points, and just seeing all the points can be confusing. So we'll start at the top, just below the head of the clavicle, then go to the next space between the ribs. And then we'll go down to the next space between the ribs, close to the sternum. So you'll find, like, you know, the bony ribs and then just the space between, but close to the sternum. So far, I haven't found any of that tender, so I'm not spending too much time there. As I come to this one, I had like a little intuition, maybe something going on there. Then finally, we can come to the next one. We're coming below the breast, below the pec muscles. So you can rub actually all along the groove between the ribs here, between the 5th and 6th ribs. And with the fingertips or whatever is comfortable. And I'm kind of surprised, because often we relate these ones to liver meridian and stomach meridian, and those are two that I have to balance frequently. So this is often tender on me, and even under the stress of giving this presentation, these are not so tender for me today. Maybe there's hope for me. Then there was one you might have seen on the picture going just straight down the sternum, which we relate to the diaphragm. So as you rub this one, you might tune into your breathing. And then we'll go back to the shoulders, and right along where the chest meets the shoulder, all along that edge, what they call the raglan sleeve. If a sleeve on the shirt is attached here, we'll go along that seam. And just, so sometimes the neurolymphatic points are kind of more points, and sometimes they're more a general area, like a groove between the ribs along here, this whole groove. But in any case, you're massaging around in that area, and when you find a point that's more tender, you want to spend a little bit more time on that part. Okay, now we're going to come back down to the edge of the ribs. Stand back a little bit so you can see the edge of the ribs. So get along just the edge of the rib cage, and I like to massage against the rib cage, but all along the edge of the ribs. And then I'm going to back up my camera up a little bit so you can see a little bit more as we go down. So then if you'll find your navel, there's points just a body inch, the width of your own thumb, out to the side of the navel, and you can massage there. Okay, now I'm finding something tender there. So that's good. I found somewhere where I can help get energy moving again. Maybe it's related to where there's some blocked energy, or where I just need to get some lymph flowing to clear things out. That's probably going to help me feel more balanced, more energized for this presentation. Then next to the belly button, just an inch, body inch to the side, but then a body inch up from there. You might even find kind of a little notch in your stomach muscles there. So it's another point that's just up from there. And then you can find a point beside the navel and then body inch down, or just use 3 fingers and just rub both sides of the navel and cover all of those. Then you want to find the top edge of the pubic bone. So coming from the top, where's that bony edge of your pubic bone? And be careful, be gentle, because sometimes these points are quite tender, but it's just the top edge of the pubic bone, massaging along there. And then the next points are all along the sides of the legs. So let's see, shall I show this? Massaging all along the sides of the legs. So the whole side of the leg, that whole zone. And sometimes these are quite tender. We relate them to the large intestine meridian, which doesn't necessarily mean there's anything wrong with your large intestine per se, but that energy in the whole body that has that type of function. And large intestine is one expression of that. Now, there are some more points that you might have seen in the diagram from the back, all along the spine. Those aren't so easy to reach on yourself, so we'll skip those for now, although some people have a massage cane they use. But what you can do, just to add a little bit of the points from the back, and it's a nice way to finish off, is to just do the low back points. And so you can just put your fist in your low back here, you know, maybe use your knuckles and massage just the whole region at the top edge of your hip bones, next to your spine, that whole triangle in the low back. That's often just a nice massage that you might find is tender, and after massaging it, it might give you some relief from anything that ails you or any pain, tension, or stress that you might be experiencing. So that's the general neurolymphatic massage. And previously we had put a number on the pain. We zipped up, we switched on, we tuned in, we did some cross crawl, we heard some little lectures. And so now you want to come back to your number. Where are you? Has there been a change again after doing the physical movement and now massaging these neurolymphatic points? So I'm going to go back to my gallery view and try to check in with everyone. What do I do with my glasses in the meantime? Huh. All right, well, I'll do without. Is there anybody who wants to give a feedback? How was that for you doing the cross crawl and then the neurolymphatic massage points? How was the experience of massaging the points? I see Kelly's hand is up. Do you want to turn your mic on?
Hi, good morning. Question. So when you're rubbing the points, does it have to be what type of pressure? Because I have an issue with pinched nerves in my neck, so it affects my forearms. So when I got about halfway through it, my forearms were screaming at me because I'm like putting a lot of pressure.
Yes.
So does it just have to be a gentle touch? Are you putting a lot of pressure?
Well, you want to adapt the system to the person. So in your case, be gentle on yourself. That means including your arms. Don't make your arms worse. Although the general idea is, yes, it is a firm pressure. It's enough firm pressure that you feel if it's tender, but you want to rub so it's comfortably uncomfortable. So you don't want to make it excruciatingly painful, because that will tend to increase tension. But if you can rub those pretty firmly, that's usually the technique. If you can't do it on yourself, this is the nice thing about Touch for Health. We ask somebody for 5 minutes from their life to support us and touch us for the purpose of our health. And then we change and we massage their points. Or you get one of those wooden massage things that you can do without using too much of your muscles, just a little bit of body weight, and you can massage the points on yourself or someone else.
Okay, great. I could definitely feel it, the difference. My body's heating up. So as I was doing it, I could feel stuff moving, and right now I'm sweating. My body's just like with heat. So I know things are moving and doing what they need to do.
Awesome. So thank you for that feedback. And in your case, if you don't have a friend to rub them firmly, just rub them lightly. Be gentle about it. Take your time. Rest in between if you need to, or just pick, just rub the ones where you notice, well, this one seems particularly sore. Okay, I'll take some time on that one, but I'm not going to tire myself out rubbing all the points when these are the ones that seem to be the most active, where there's some tenderness. And you don't actually have to rub so hard, but maybe rub a little bit longer, but gently. That might work out better for you.
Awesome. Thank you.
Okay. Other questions or comments? I'm going to look at the gallery. I see, if I'm pronouncing it correctly, Cool Deep.
Yes. Yeah. Hello, sir.
Hello.
And it's really it's a blessing for me that I'm here today and learning from you, and also my teacher Junia. And since we started the exercises from the zip up, it's like very, very, very relaxing, and energy is moving. And today, like just now I learned how the neurolymphatic points, especially for the back. I never tried that. And because I used to think like it's like I'm dependent on my kids. I like, if they find time, that they can do my spinal flush. So today I learned how to do that on myself, and it's really I can see the energy moving, and it's I can't explain how I feel. Like it's like full from the top of the spine and the sacrum. It's like energy is moving there, and it's like warmth. I can feel that warmth, and today I really feel very fresh. I don't know, it happens whenever I'm with my teachers, and so it's really great today. And since morning I woke up very early, like 3 o'clock in the morning, and since I started my daily energy routine that time only, and I'm full of energy today, and lucky to be here with you and learning from you. And thank you so much for that. Thank you so much.
Thank you for that feedback. So getting warmth in the body, that seems to be a common theme already right now, just rubbing your neurolymphatic points. So that when you feel warmth in your body, one of the things it suggests is there's more circulation. The blood is moving around, you're warming up. The other thing that I would think from there, because these are neurolymphatic points, is that your lymph is circulating more. So remember, drink plenty of water and flush out any toxins that are being released, and you may find that you're going to feel lighter, not only today, but in the next days. Okay,
Yeah.
anybody else? Go ahead. Yes? Okay, I thought there was another comment. So I'm going to look at the gallery. I see Noel. You happen to be in my upper left, so I'm picking on you.
My hip, it definitely hurts a lot less. There's a lot more easy mobility to it. Yeah. So I'm really happy about that, because I was walking not so good this morning. So thank you.
Good. So you're kind of our case study so far for today. We're following that hip issue. So what we did earlier, maybe it took some time for that to start affecting, but also maybe just the gentle movement of the cross crawl, the neurolymphatic points.
Yeah. Exciting. Thank you.
So what's the number now?
I'd say, because I've been walking up and down my hallway, I'd say it's down to maybe like a 3.
Okay, so from an 8 to 3, I would say that's pretty wonderful.
Yes, definitely. That's a huge reduction. Yeah, it just feels so much easier to walk.
And we hope that continues and even keeps improving. But
Yes.
the fact that it can improve for even a window of time, that's a hopeful indication. Oh, if this simple stuff can help, then there's hope. That can be helped. So if it doesn't last, then we can come back and do the same thing again, or find something else to do.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you for sharing that, Noel. And I'll go back to my gallery. I could have sworn I saw another hand up. with a comment, a feedback, or a question. No, those seem to be all the comments or questions that I'm seeing so far. So we'll leave that there for now. So we've kind of gone into the pain control section here, and we've been doing some physical energetic things for pain control. Let me go back to speaker view so you can see me. So now there's another factor. Sometimes, even though it's a physical pain and it seems mechanical, structural, the mental emotional factor can be important also. And so now we're going to get to a technique that you may have already seen, and you may know these secret magical points between the eye and the natural hairline. So for me, it's a little lower down here, the edge, just sort of the middle of the forehead. There's some little bumps here. If you take the pads of your fingers and place them over the forehead and feel very lightly. So like the previous question, how do we use the neurolymphatic points? Ideally, we do put firm pressure on those points within the person's comfort zone, comfortably uncomfortable because they're tender points. Now with these neurovascular points, the ESR points are what we call neurovascular points. So we think they're having more effect on the vascular system. We hold these very lightly. So you would put just enough pressure that you could tug the skin a little bit. So it's not so light that the skin won't move so you are making contact, but then we don't say you tug the skin in any particular direction. We just maintain contact. And they are emotional stress release points. So it might be even more effective if you first get in touch with the emotional aspect. So I can see on my screen at the top, I still see a little tiny picture of Noelle. So just as an example, she's still at a 3. It's been reduced a lot, but it would be nice if it finished reducing. So she can think about the fact that there was that pain, that it is, where it is now. How does she feel about it? Is there any emotional aspect? Does she feel an emotion? Maybe she doesn't feel an emotion per se, but she can tune in to the physical sensation. So we can use emotional stress release just with the physical focus as well. So she can tune into where exactly that feeling is in the hip. So if anybody wants to come along, we'll do this as a group exercise. Tune into what is your anxiety? Is there any worry or concern or stress in your life? What could be a physical pain? So tune into the physical pain, but also notice how you feel about it. Are you feeling some frustration? Is there some sense of fear or lack of hope? Oh, this is not going to get better, that kind of a thing, that kind of concern. Tune into that, and it's more powerful if you not only tune into it, but you put a number on it, 0 to 10. The analog scale, subjective scale, 0 to 10. And it's called subjective. You think, oh, well, that's not real. That's not scientific. But actually, the subjective scale for pain and for emotion is the most scientific measure because it's the only measure. There's no scientific machine that can measure your level of pain, can measure your emotions, your feelings, or how you feel about things. What is the meaning things have for you? And those are all very significant things in the quality of your life. So your subjective scale is actually being very scientific. And if you'll measure it with a specific number, then you can notice better, even if it's a small change, there is a change. And then that hope that you see, yes, there's hope for me. Yes, something can change. That really amplifies the benefit. So tune into whatever's going on with you, pain, worry, concern, put a number on it, and then let's hold our emotional stress release points. And if you have a place in your body, let me see if I can pin this. If you have a place in your body where you're feeling some tension or some pain, tune into that, zero in on it, but also how you feel about it, what you think about it. If you have some emotion, some worry, concern, some fear, some sadness, whatever that emotion is, put the number on it, but then notice, how do you know you're having an emotion? What is the sensation in your body that tells you you're having an emotion. My idea, my sense is with emotions is that emotions are a physical sensation with a thought, with a meaning. And those two things together give us a signal that, oh, we're having a particular emotion that has a particular meaning. So when you realize you're having an emotion, where in your body do you feel it? You might be surprised that you can kind of zero in. Oh, I feel the emotion here. Oh, I feel the emotion here. Maybe I feel that emotion in the small of my back. And just zero in on it, tune in on it while we're holding these points. So why might these points help? Well, one thing is when we tune into our pain and our emotion, there's a tendency for those to get more because we're focused on them, they amplify them, and that can send us into a little bit of an alarm reaction. When we have pain, when we have stress, when we have worry, we might go into the fight-flight mode. And for whatever reason, just for 50 years, thousands of people all over the world have reported very similar results that correspond with coming out of the fight-flight back into a centered, calm state, where literally, physiologically, the blood isn't rushing out to your limbs in a mode for fighting and surviving. It's coming back to your core where it can nourish the internal organs, help with the physiology, and you can rest and digest. And when you're in that calm, centered state, you can still be aware of your emotions, but they're no longer as stressful. They're no longer as alarming. They're no longer overwhelming. If they do seem to be overwhelming, even though you're holding the points, then stop thinking about that. If there's, in Touch for Health, we always say, if there's something that you don't like, if it's something that seems to be making it worse, just stop. We can just rest or try something else. So it sometimes, even though we're using the emotional stress release points, tying into our emotions is still overwhelming. So then don't focus on that, focus on something else neutral, focus on something positive. My father used to say, think of fresh bread. So for a lot of people, that's something very neutral. If fresh bread is stressful to you, don't use that one. Think of a different neutral idea. Maybe go to your safe place in your mind's eye, where you're safe and free of worries and concerns. Like kind of an imaginary place, or maybe a real place that you've been, so you can visualize that right now. And maybe just to finish up, just tune back into your breathing and how you're feeling. And then when you're ready, you can remove your hands from the forehead. And just notice, how is your body feeling? Has there been some change in your mood, in your energy? Whatever you measured, whether it was a range of motion or an emotion with the number, how has the number changed? And if you want to give me some feedback, you can raise your hand, or you can just throw it in the chat. You can say, what was the change in your number 0 to 10? If you had a particular pain, mention the pain and what was the change. So any comments or questions on our emotional stress release? Very simple, easy technique we can use for ourselves anytime. Growing up is the technique I used from Touch for Health actually the most. And where I used it was in school. Even if I didn't study that much, when I used my ESR points anticipating the test, I found that at least what I did know, I could remember and get out on the test. I found if I didn't study at all, ESR didn't allow me to download the information from the universe. So I still had to study. But oftentimes in test taking experience, it's your stress level that's getting measured much more than your knowledge level. So if you can bring the stress down and access what you do know, you often do much better on the test or a job interview or any challenging exercise. So we can use this anticipating different activities so that we're really in a centered, calm, focused way. We have access to our higher order thinking skills. And one idea is that when you hold these points, it's actually helping blood circulation to the frontal brain where we have choice. We're not just reacting for survival. Sorry, I had it on the small screen again. We're not just reacting for survival mode, but we can actually be in a calm state. We can choose how we want to respond in a situation. So any other comments or questions on emotional stress release. Again, if you forget everything up to this point and you only take emotional stress release away, it's worth the price of admission. People's lives have been changed just by using this one tool. So I'm not seeing anyone raising their hand with a comment or question. So we're coming up to the 10 o'clock hour, and this is a convenient time to take another break. So let's take another 10, 15-minute break. We'll come back at 10 after 10 California time, 10 minutes after the hour, wherever you are. See you then. Okay, hello, we're back from the break. Hope you had a chance to rest your eyes or move around, maybe do some more cross crawl, go to the bathroom perhaps, drink plenty of water. So now we're into the third hour. So we've learned some energizers we can do for ourselves quite easily, maybe even bringing in a little bit of muscle testing in the sense of checking ranges of motion, comfort level, function of muscles. But now we're going to get into a little bit more specific mechanical testing of muscles. I'm only going to demonstrate in the last hour all the different 14 muscles we learned in level 1. I'm just going to demonstrate that part, but we're going to all try out together, and maybe depending on the time we can break out again and try coaching each other, what we call the indicator muscle. So an indicator muscle is just when you use one muscle that's in good balance already, but then you can see how that muscle responds to different stimuli or different stresses to give you an indication, well, what is stressful or what will help you to balance your energy. So it's very valuable. A lot of people who are kinesiologists mainly use one or two indicator muscles to give them all kinds of information about what might be out of balance and how to balance the energy. But in Touch for Health, since we're coming from chiropractic and we really like to be concrete, physical in the posture and balance the physical posture, we balance up to 42 important postural muscles that will actually balancing a lot of other muscles in the posture as we go about it. So it's a very thorough way we get into the physical concrete part. But in level 1, we like to balance 14 important postural muscles, one related to each of the major energy systems. So we're balancing the posture and the energy at the same time. And somewhere along in that mix, the mental emotional state is coming along for the ride. So you can see how we're addressing the different sides of the pyramid, the different functions of the human being for a holistic balance. But for now, let's get into the fun of checking the anterior deltoid muscle. So first of all, I'm going to share a little page from the Touch for Health book. Let's see, screen share. And I want to show the anterior deltoid muscle. And you can use different muscles as your indicator muscle, but some are more convenient than others. So the little anterior deltoid muscle at the front of the shoulder here, and I'm not sure if you can see my cursor on my screen, I'm seeing the little hand pointing out where is the anterior deltoid muscle there. So that muscle is going to help in raising your arm forward. Like when you're walking, it raises the arms forward. So let me see. If you're looking at the little picture of me, you can see it helps raise the arm forward. When I stop screen share, I'll show you again large so you can see it better. But before I stop the screen share, I just want to point out a couple of other pieces of information right here on the page, which is these are your neurolymphatic points. So you remember when we did the general neurolymphatic massage, we came massaging down between the ribs. So between the third and fourth and fifth ribs, we have these neurolymphatic points, and those are reflex points to switch on the anterior deltoid muscle. So in case that muscle is out of balance to begin with, we can switch it on, and then we can use it to see how it responds to other things to give us an indication. And then if you recall your emotional stress release points, which are also what we call neurovascular points, there's another neurolymphatic point here at the top of the head. And without the hairline on this model, who was our photographer, and he took a picture of his head, but he didn't happen to have the hair as a reference. But if you use the heel of your hand in the bridge of your nose and see where your fingers go, that will bring you about to what's called the anterior fontanelle, or the baby's soft spot. But if you just go in that general region, the top of the head, but towards the front, and hold very lightly, that's the neurovascular point for anterior deltoid. So by using those two, we can usually switch on anterior deltoid, so it's a normal balance function, and then we can use it as an indicator of other things. So I wanted to show you those pages first. And I'll scroll up a little. Here you see my father, John Thie, testing the model from the Touch for Health book. And when you're doing a manual muscle test, one person applying pressure on the other so they can feel if the muscle locks in place, you see one hand is always working to brace the person in position, and then the other hand is working to see if the muscle easily holds in a locked position or it unlocks and goes through its range of motion. Since not all of us have a partner at home, we're going to first learn how we can do this as a self-assessment without a partner to push on our arms or legs. So I'm going to go back out of the screen share, and it's back to me. Hello. And I'm going to come down a little bit here so you can see my shoulder and my arm. So if you feel on your shoulder, at the front of the shoulder, the muscle here, and when it's relaxed, it's rather soft usually. And so you just touch there, and then as you raise your arm forward, feel that muscle contracting and getting more firm. Now you know exactly where is anterior deltoid by palpating, by touching and feeling it. So now we know exactly where the anterior deltoid is. And you want to know that it's a short muscle coming from the shoulder down to here. And you can feel there again and feel it come up and kind of feel the two ends of it. You want to know where are the ends of the muscle, and therefore where is the center or belly of the muscle. So first, let's try that on both sides. Let's just go through the range of motion. And we don't want to go too high because then other muscles are coming in. So we're bringing it, just for the camera, I'm bringing it a little bit high. Normally, we don't go to 90 degrees. We just go to about 45 degrees. But just so you can see the motion well on the video, I'm coming all the way to 90 degrees. So this is kind of the function of the muscle. It contracts and it raises the arm. So check that range and see how it feels. Does it feel comfortable? Does it feel strong? Or does it feel heavy? And that's not that much effort to lift the arm forward, but we'll see if there's a subtle change to see how the muscle is functioning. But first, in case it's out of balance to begin with, let's go to those points between the ribs. If they're sore, that's an indication maybe the anterior deltoid could use some balancing, some energy, get some energy flowing to there. If you're not sure where exactly these are, rub a little bit higher between the ones and rub a little bit lower. It doesn't hurt to do extra as long as you find the ones, and the ones that are tender is an indication. And then the second thing to do is hold lightly at your anterior fontanelle. And breathe. And if you hold this for about 20 or 30 seconds, that's usually effective in helping the energy to flow. Now, if there's nothing out of balance, nothing blocked, and it's not needed, then it tends to kind of still help reinforce or just do nothing. So don't worry, it's not a case of where you're doing too much if it's not needed. And 20 or 30 seconds on neurolymphatics or neurovasculars are usually effective. But when you're holding the neurovasculars, whether they're here at anterior fontanelle or emotional stress release points, see if you notice a pulsation. You may or may not feel it at first, but as you get used to tuning into the feeling, you may notice more and more. You sense this kind of independent pulsation. It's a superficial capillary pulse, and tuning into that pulsation can reinforce the benefit. So now that we did our reflex points, just try and see how anterior deltoid feels. And actually for me, it's subtle, but it actually feels easier, lighter. So that's an indication if it was working before, it's working even better now. So that's my baseline, first of all, to assume that my anterior deltoid muscle is working. Just noticing it through the range of motion. So I call it snorming, self-noticing through the range of motion, snorming. A lot of people don't like that word snorming, so they just call it range of motion testing. The second way to check in with the muscle is to apply pressure in the contracted position. So raising the arm up, this is contracted. And now I can just put some pressure and see if it's easy to hold or it doesn't seem to want to come to a lock. Now, it's usually a little easier if you have a partner push and you see if it's easy to meet that pressure, a light pressure, 2 pounds of pressure. But you can, with practice especially, see, and actually on me, surprisingly enough, I just switched it on, I thought, but it doesn't feel like it wants to come to a lock. On this side, like when I push, oh, this comes to a lock, very easy hold, easy to hold. But this side, like, I don't know another way to put it, it feels like the muscle just doesn't want to lock in place. So I'm gonna go back and rub these again, maybe a little bit more vigorously, because I want to start out with that muscle switched on and in balance, and then I can use it to indicate something. And I'll hold lightly here. And then I'll check how it feels. Now it feels like it's locking in place. Now that takes a little bit of just trust and faith in yourself that you're going to get an indication from your own body, but the more you practice it, the more clear it becomes. And of course, when something's out of balance, it's more obvious whether it's easy to hold or not. So the more you find there are things that are out of balance and you balance them, the more you'll see the difference. It will be more and more obvious. So now I have my indicator muscle seems to be switched on. So now I'm going to try to challenge the muscle in different ways to see if it's responding in the usual way. So by first we touched the shoulder, we saw it was soft, and now as I raise the arm and it contracts, it feels more solid. So now I'm going to go into that muscle and shorten the fibers. And by shortening the fibers, that's actually creating an inhibition signal with the brain. The brain will send back a signal to relax, too tight. So then that kind of repeat. Well, first of all, I want to just do this normal, just the range of motion, see how it feels. So it does feel like maybe a little bit heavier. So now I'm going to stretch it out and reverse the effect. And that does feel a little bit lighter. But I have to confess, this kind of self-noticing on my own muscle is harder for me to notice than if I have a partner who's pushing on the muscle. It seems more obvious, more concrete when I have a partner to help me with it. That's part of Touch for Health. But when we don't have a partner and we're over the video, it's convenient to be able to check on myself. So that difference is pretty subtle for me when I do it on myself. So to amplify that, make it more obvious to me, actually Larry was on here earlier and he's the one who showed me you can hold a carton of milk or a jar of beans. I happen to have filled my bottle with water on the break because I've been drinking so much water, I had to refill. That's a weight that's not so heavy that it's ridiculous. Maybe it's a little heavier than I need. I should drink more of the water. But we say when we do a muscle test, we put about 2 pounds of pressure. So if you raise something that's maybe 2 pounds, it might be the right, you have to experiment what's the right amount of weight. But I try lifting with anterior deltoid, and that seems pretty easy to do. I do feel some effort to have to lift it. So now I'm going to compare if I pinch the muscle. So I'm finding the muscle flows in this direction. You may have seen in the illustration the direction of the fibers. So they flow in this direction. So I want to shorten the fibers, and that will usually create an inhibition effect. And now when I go to raise this, it doesn't feel nearly as good. It feels much heavier. So then I'm going to stretch the fibers, and I'm going to try it again. And sure enough, it feels much lighter. So now the effect is much more obvious to me. And for those of you who are used to doing muscle testing with a partner, you notice sometimes the partner says, oh, well, you're pushing on me. You're pushing too hard. That's why it's harder to hold. So sometimes it's good to ask them to do this exercise and notice the difference when they just do it on themselves. And they say, oh, there really is a shift in the neurological function. There really is a shift in the energy, and it's not whether you're pushing hard or soft. So even those of you who are used to doing muscle testing with a partner, this is an exercise that might be valuable, even when the person is there with you and you could do the physical pressure to the muscle. So now we've done what we call the physical challenge, and at least I have started to notice the difference from when it's more facilitated or a little bit inhibited, harder to hold. I go back and push. Yeah, still easy to hold. So now I just want to double check, because we use the indicator muscle not only for neurological indications, what's happening directly with the muscle, but also with the energy and with our emotions. So the next thing I want to check with the muscle is an energetic test. So you may remember we zipped up central meridian for energizing and sending energy to all the meridians in the body. But now we're going to briefly zip down. First, I'll get my baseline. Okay, that seems easy to hold. So now I'll zip down a couple of times, and then I'll recheck. Oh, that is pretty obvious to me. I mean, I could compensate. I could still hold my arm up against my own pressure, but it's not feeling totally easy, so I let it go. So I'm going to zip back up, and then I'm going to recheck the muscle, and that feels real easy. And to compare apples to apples, like I was doing before, doing the range of motion, not just applying pressure in the contracted position with the range of motion, see how this feels. That feels a bit heavy. I probably would use a lighter weight if I was going to be doing this all day. But I'm going to zip up. And that does make it feel lighter. And then I'm going to zip down. And now that feels super heavy. So I'm going to zip back up. I don't like that heavy feeling. That's bad. All right. So that's an energetic challenge. And it's also checking the central meridian. So if you didn't get the result, like harder to hold when you zip down and easier to hold when you zip up, that might suggest some imbalance in the central meridian itself. And there's two ways we can balance that. We can just keep tracing up on the central meridian until it switches on, or we can flush out the central meridian as if maybe there were some rocks and debris in that energy channel. We get the leaves and the mud out of there by flushing it out, by just tracing the hand up and down several times. And then we end with 3 traces going up. And again, that in itself, checking and balancing the central meridian can sometimes have some amazing results because it's connected to all the other meridians. So it's liable to switch on and balance a lot of different functions with a very simple intervention. For now, we're just using that so that our indicator muscle is very clear when it's switching on and off. We call it, it's accurate. It's responding in the way that we usually expect. So we call it an accurate indicator muscle. So we've done the physical, we've done the energetic. So the last one is the mental emotional. And I find in my own experience, for me and for a lot of other people, sometimes the physical one, when we pinch it, it's not so obvious that there's an obvious change. We have to just kind of trust, okay, maybe there's a little bit of a difference. Maybe on the energetic one, zipping up and down. Sometimes it's obvious, sometimes less so. But the one that seems more often more obvious is the mental emotional challenge. And that reinforces what to me is kind of a universal truth, that a lot of times we don't actually behave as if we knew it was true, which is that what you think and how you feel might be the most important factor for your experience of life, whether you experience joy in life and satisfaction, or whether you feel a lot of misery and pain and trouble. So getting in contact with what you think and feel, and knowing how you have some power to transform that can make a huge difference in your experience of life. And we just kind of illustrate that with the good old indicator muscle. So I'm going to go back, because I said it was pretty subtle for me just checking my own range of motion. I'm going to go back to my jar of water, and I have enough strength to lift that. That feels okay. But now I'm going to think about something a little bit unpleasant. So I got to get the thought in mind. I won't even say what it is. Not huge, traumatic, terrible. I don't want to bring that up and get into a trauma state. Something a little bit unpleasant, just to give me an indication. And yeah, that unpleasant thought kind of makes my arm heavier. And that probably corresponds to a typical feeling people have when they think about something negative. Oftentimes their whole posture gets heavier. You feel it in the body. It shows up in your posture. So we can refine that by just using a particular muscle to show the inhibition and the energy when we think about something negative, something stressful. Now I'll think about something positive, something I like, and not overwhelmingly positive to where I get into a manic, crazy, wild state, because that can be stressful too, but something just a little bit pleasant. And I have that in mind, and that is easier to raise the jar. So to me, the range of motion with holding a weight is what's most obvious and concrete. You have to experiment what's most obvious to you. It could be just a range of motion that's obvious and that's enough. Or for a lot of people, they say, oh, it locks in place or it doesn't lock in place. That's totally clear. So I'll just show that I could check the locking and zip down. Oh, unlock, zip up, lock. That's another way to do it. Or I can think something unpleasant. Yeah, it doesn't feel easy to hold. Now think something pleasant, feels totally easy to hold. With practice, that becomes very clear, very easy to do for yourself. But you have to find which way to do it is most clear. Sometimes I do all three. Just feel the range of motion, then do a weight, then do the muscle test. But at a certain point for efficiency, I just maybe do one part to give me an indication. So that's just my quick demonstration of the accurate indicator muscle and checking 3 different ways the muscle can indicate some kind of stress: a physical stress of inhibiting the muscle physically, energetic stress of tracing the meridian backwards, which has a momentary inhibition effect, or the mental emotional stress, just thinking of something a little bit unpleasant. So if you've been following along, maybe you've begun to start to get the hang of muscle testing just for yourself without a partner to push on it. Later on, of course, you want to learn to work also with a partner because that adds a dimension to the muscle balancing. But now that we've gotten this far, I want to check in with everybody. Are there any comments or questions on that practice? I know Kuldeep still has her hand up, but I think that was from a previous question or a previous comment. Any comments or questions on the self-testing with snorming, self-noticing through the range of motion, or SAP cap, self-applying pressure in the contracted position? Or you can just say range of motion, contracted position. I like those funny acronyms, but most other people have given me the feedback they like the shorter ones. So I'm not seeing any hands up or anybody turning off their microphone. So I'm just going to assume that was all pretty clear, which is good because that gives us more time to do something with that information. So I'm going to go back to speaker view so you can see me better. Actually, I'm just realizing you're viewing. You decide whether you see speaker view or group view. It's just me changing speaker view on me. But for the recording, I have to remember what's going to be better, see all of me or see everybody. So if please excuse me thinking out loud with the technical part, but that is part of the point of this intro is let's think about how do we use these energizers, but also how do we use this platform to use these energizers? So as part of the intention of at least our awareness, if not learning how to use this particular platform. So now we've learned to check anterior deltoid, check it out 3 different ways to make sure it's an accurate indicator muscle. So now we can use it to give us more refined information to tune in more closely to the energy, and that actually cues up the body and the energy a little bit more specifically. So sometimes we have a more specific result or a better result. So we're going to go back to the top to the things that we learned already, and we're going to check them out. So I thought it'd be more fun. We've all done the accurate indicator muscle just kind of as a group. That was a quick way, so we all had an experience. But now what I'd like to try is with a volunteer using some of these things. And earlier in one of the breakouts, I met Noelle. Now, Noelle, was it you who had the hip problem? No, yeah.
Yeah.
How's
Yes,
your hip doing now?
It's got a the discomfort has kind of moved a little bit, so it's definitely still there. Where I think it originated happened a couple of years ago, and it's just been on and off ever since. I did some deep stretching the other night, and that seemed to either be releasing energy or aggravate it. So.
Okay, so you relate to this to some kind of energy from some years ago.
Mm-hmm. Right.
You may have kind of aggravated it with some of your recent movement.
Correct.
Okay, but now it's kind of moved. So in the original position, is it 0? And in a new position, is it another number?
Just sitting, it doesn't really it's not really showing as any discomfort. It's when I have been sitting for a long time and then get up. And in these last couple of days, and I'm walking now just to kind of feel in these last couple of days, because of the deep stretching, it's more aggravated. It's more like constantly present as I'm walking than it had been before.
So how are you feeling it now as you're walking?
It's about a discomfort level of about 5. It's
Okay.
it's like a pinching.
So it goes from a 0 back up to a 5 as you walk around.
Correct.
Okay. So don't walk around. No, I'm just kidding. But if there's some obvious activity that you don't necessarily have to do, it's causing you pain, you might consider not doing that or modifying. So if you say, well, just sitting for 5 hours at a time without taking any breaks causes pain, that's some important information. You might want to bring in some breaks. If that avoids the pain, that's a simple solution. So some of it is just self-awareness and then common sense. But of course, then we have some tools that might make all of that easier. So now you're sitting down, how's it feeling?
Right now, it's fine. It just seems like the prolongedness of sitting somehow aggravates it. It just makes it, yeah.
So part of this is this sitting for the 2.5 hours that you've been sitting so far. Is that aggravating it?
I guess, but it hadn't been that bad until, again, about 2 nights ago, I did some deep stretching to try to start really releasing it. Because I think it started a couple of years ago. I was working and I was wearing high heels, and there was a slippery spot on the floor, and I slipped just a little bit. I didn't fall, but I slipped a little bit, and I caught myself, particularly on that left side. And I think that's what started it. So
yeah. So it wasn't an obvious injury where you ended up going to the doctor and having it evaluated and some therapy, but that little slip, that little catch, now you have a kink today that's kind of, at the moment, aggravated and active.
Correct.
Okay. So we're just going to use that as, and while you're sitting there, you don't feel it, but maybe you'll try walking again later. So we're going to check in to central meridian. And I just want to check, when you checked anterior deltoid, was there anything special going on with central meridian? Oh, your mic is off, sorry.
Everything seems okay with central.
Okay, but with this new focus, because now you're focused on what's going on with that hip pain, check your indicator muscle and see if it's locking. How do you like to do it? Do you like to do it through the range of motion, or do you like to just check if it's locking?
I like to just check, and it's, yeah, both sides are strong.
Both sides locking. So now I want you to tune into how that area, you may have a little bit of awareness of that area, even though you're not walking around, and check the indicator.
And what was the last part?
And check the indicator muscle, check anterior deltoid.
Yeah, now it's weak when I.
Okay,
yeah.
So that's a way to tune in more concretely and get an indication. Okay, there's something out of balance related to this pain in the hip. So now that that's kind of activated, we're going to go and check central meridian. So there's a couple ways to check it. You can check just tracing it, or you can just touch the endpoint of the meridian. Circuit locate endpoint of the meridian. So touch the endpoint of meridian and check the indicator.
Weak.
So it's unlocking. So that's an indication, okay, the stress that we have in our awareness, there's some imbalance in central meridian related to that now that it's in our awareness. So by balancing central meridian, we might help to balance that. So now just trace central meridian a few times. And just notice if you feel anything while you're tracing central meridian. And you got a yawn at the end, so that's that cleansing breath. Indications maybe something shifted.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so now we're going to use the muscle indicator to give us an, oh, now you're walking around. So go ahead and measure.
Just to
Yeah.
It's definitely a little bit easier. Yeah, there's still some kind of hold there, but it's coming and going.
Aha. So that's good. It comes and goes, so
Yeah.
maybe it can just go.
Yeah. Yeah.
If it can shift some, maybe it can finish shifting.
Yes.
But now when you're sitting, before it was an 8, now you're not even noticing it. It's just when you're walking, if that's correct. So
Yeah.
that seems like a lot already. So that's a great indication of your capacity to heal and come into a more comfortable balance. But let's double check, is there more to do with the central meridian? Let's touch central meridian and check the indicator muscle.
Strong.
It's strong. So that's our indication. That's nice. Maybe there's more to do. We can get an indication and do more just with central meridian. But if not, then we don't need to do more there. We got an indication. So for now, based on that indication of the indicator muscle, we're not going to do more zipping the central meridian. But now go back to your indicator muscle. Just double check your baseline. And now tune back into that place where you were having the kink, the catching feeling.
Mm. Strong, and I'm surprised. I thought it was going to come weak for some reason, but that's showing strong.
So that's a fascinating thing about the muscle test. Let me put me back on here. Is that we sometimes have an intuition and anticipation of what's going to happen, but when we test the muscle, it's not always the same. So it can start to develop our accuracy of our intuition as we start to align those two things. But sometimes there's something that we're aware of or we think on a conscious level, but at a body level or a subconscious level, the indicator muscle indicates something else. So it can expand our awareness of things that are going on, maybe at an unconscious level that we weren't consciously aware of, and give us more information about what's going on. But in this case, I would say for our purposes of demonstration and for you right now, we've got an indication that's enough to do for what's going on there. Even though it's not 100% cured necessarily right now, this is probably a good place just to leave it for now and see what we've done, given the body some time, how it can develop. So we won't overdo it. We won't overstretch it. We won't exacerbate the condition. We'll just do kind of the right amount. And when we got an indication it's enough, even if you go from an 8 to a 7, when we get the indication it's enough, then we'll trust the body and we'll go from there. Sound good, Noelle?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you so much for volunteering. So comments or questions on that little mini session of using zipping up as our pain control technique for a specific pain that we could kind of zero in on with the indicator muscle and then use the end point of the meridian to create a circuit. So we call it circuit locate to see, is there some involvement of central meridian? Okay, I'm not seeing any hands. So now, next thing I need is another volunteer to show how you use this indicator muscle, but with a different technique. Does anybody have an ache or pain or a worry or concern, something that's stressing them? Okay, Akio, am I saying that correctly? Okay, Akio, turn your mic on. How are you doing?
Good. I just have joint pains in many places.
Okay, joint pain in many places.
You can take a pick.
Okay, so do you have an idea of why you have joint pain in these different places?
I have RA. So these are all like inflamed joint pains. Some are more swollen than the others.
So there's some inflammation.
And some are more chronic, that stays all the time, and some are more like, intermittent pain. It comes and goes.
So some are more resistant to change and some more likely to change. Sometimes it's better, sometimes it's worse.
Mm-hmm.
So because sometimes it can be better, that gives us an encouragement. There's hope for it to be better. Maybe at some point today or down the line, it can be all the way better. So I don't know. I'm not a medical doctor. I can't diagnose why you are having this inflammation and this pain, but that might be interesting to think about that. But in the meantime, regardless of the condition, we can do some things that at the very least help you to feel more comfortable. So I don't know what RA means exactly. You explained to me a little bit, but I could tell you for 100 people that have RA, there's 100 different ways that they experience it. Not everyone experiences it exactly the same. So that means it doesn't mean you will have exactly X, Y, Z conditions. Symptoms may be more, they may be less. So we can help you with something that at the very least perhaps helps with your attitude, your energy, maybe reduces the pain so you can cope with it better. And then of course the hope is we get the natural healing system functioning, and whatever else you're doing for therapy for that condition, it will be complementary to that so that your body can resolve that. Because for every condition, there is some example out there for someone whose body resolved the condition and they got back to their full health and wellness. And even the people who still have some ongoing condition, if they have ways to cope with it and reduce the stress, that can shift their attitude and that can change their life, even if they continue to have a condition. So Akio, I didn't mean to give you a big lecture, but that was just for general information for the group. So
no, I agree. I really agree. And I'm all
for you today, how's it been going in that almost 3 hours that we've been on here today? Has there been any change?
So my upper arm pain, like it's mostly the stiffness in the morning, it's better. It's my left elbow is kind of talking a little bit louder today. So that's kind of talking a little bit louder than earlier.
Okay, so that's even worse than when we started. Uh-oh.
But I think it's also because some of the stuff that we do can also aggravate it too. So yeah, that's it seems like that's the area that's talking a little bit loud and calling attention.
So that's a little bit of a conundrum if our movement that usually helps most people is actually making things worse. But I will say, and our general rule is if it's making it worse, stop, don't do that. Do something more gentle. But sometimes we do have some increase in pain after we've balanced, but if we give it a little bit of time, those pains tend to be transitory as things are rebalancing, and then they go away. So you may be even getting a little bit more pain in the elbow as there's more circulation, but maybe later, if we don't even do anything more, it might feel better than it did before. That's a possibility. That's
possible.
Watch out. But anyway, if you dare, should we work a little bit with the elbow right now?
Sure.
So
I am open.
Remember, we don't want to make it worse. So if anything that we're doing seems to be still making it worse, let's at least pause.
Okay. Just to let you know, I think the bending motion right now is what aggravates more. So as long as I'm keeping it straight, it should be fine.
Yeah. So when you do that bending and range of motion in the elbow and you're talking about the joints, there's another technique that's in the Touch for Health book. We're not going to get to it today, but it's called the figure eights. And that's legendary. It's so simple, but people have reported around the world for generations so many like almost miraculous results of that simple thing of running the figure eights over the joints. That's easy to find and look up for yourself. But for now, we're just going to stay on our game plan. And what we're going to look at, we did zipping up. Let's try switching on. So first of all, we got to check our indicator muscle. So were you successful in noticing the difference with the anterior deltoid? You could notice a difference when it was easy to hold and not easy to hold? Okay, and I see your head nodding.
I do this self-applying pressure. It's easier for me.
Okay, and you've already been doing that before. You're used to doing that. Okay, so that makes it easy. We have a technique that you're familiar with. So you've already checked it and it's an accurate indicator muscle switching on and off. You can tell the difference. So let's just check the baseline, see if it's easy to hold locking in place. And then think about that elbow. How's the elbow feeling? And recheck the muscle.
It unlocks.
It unlocks. So no big surprise there, you're laughing.
Yeah.
It's stressful that you have this condition that there's inflammation and pain in the joints and pain in movement. It's not nice. So obviously it's going to bring your energy down when you think about it and bring your awareness to it, right? So now we're going to go to the switching points, which actually the point we circuit located before for central meridian is one of the switching points. So let's circuit locate that one and recheck. So you just touch and then check the muscle.
It does unlock.
It does unlock. Let's try this one above the upper lip for governing.
This one's locking.
That one's locking. So we can just leave that one out. If it was both, we could do the switching exercise with both at the same time. But since that one's not indicating, let's just put one hand over abdomen here and then the other hand here and rub the switching point. So this is for central meridian. So this is one of the meridians that modulates the energy in all of the other meridians. So it's a shortcut. Wherever the imbalance may be, wherever energy is blocked, we're using central meridian to get it flowing. And then switch hands and repeat, because which hand you use can have a subtle energetic difference. We don't know which one is the correct one here. We're just doing both. That's the easy way to cover our bases. Okay. And now check the elbow again. And I didn't put a number on it before, but we'll tune into it and see how it feels now.
I would say before, maybe it was about like 7, and it was hard to like reach my shoulder.
So there was some restriction.
Yeah, but I want to say probably like 1 level down. But also, you know, bending, it's kind of aggravating. So, but I did feel just like 1 level down in pain and like swelling. Like it was easier to kind of reach my shoulder, even though it doesn't go all the way.
Okay, so some improvement in that short space of time with just this one point. Let's double check if there's more to do with this point. So circuit locate again and recheck.
Okay, now it's locking.
Now it's locking. So we're done with that point, but the switching points, we actually have 3 sets of points that we like to work with. So you can touch these 2 points, the kidney 27 switching points, just touch and then recheck the muscle.
This one's unlocking too.
Unlocking. So we're going to go back with one hand over the navel. We'll switch, massage both of those.
Now, in this case, it is better to do with both hands. But if I don't want to bend the left elbow, can I just do with one hand?
Yes. So we always adapt the system to the person. There's sort of an ideal textbook way to do it. And then there's a way that works for the person. So you can kind of just have your intention tying into hara or energy center or abdomen or navel. And you don't, if it's stressful to you to put your other hand there, you don't have to do it. But if you can at least do these points, then that's definitely something to do.
Okay.
And then you want to switch hands, but if switching hands is going to be painful, we'll just do what we can without making it worse. So you prefer just to use the right hand and not stress the left hand.
Just for now.
Excellent. So that's what I want to reinforce. That's excellent self-care. We want people to really step into their power and self-responsibility to say what is okay for me and what's not okay, what I do want to do and what I don't want to do. This is okay, yes. This is not okay, no. If it's too painful or it's not comfortable, just say stop. And that's a rule I should have emphasized more in the beginning, but this is the next best time to emphasize it. So whenever you're ready, just gently, without making it worse, just recheck that range of motion.
This one doesn't seem to be changing that much. I think it's about the same.
Okay, let's double check the point, see if there's more to do on the points. So touch the points and check the indicator.
Okay, this one's locking, so I think this points are probably done.
Okay, so that's enough on that one. So the last one to do is a tailbone.
Mhm.
You don't have to touch right at the very tip of the tailbone, just in that general area, but bring your attention there, touch there, and then recheck the indicator.
Okay, this one unlocks. So,
So now, if you can find a comfortable way without increasing the pain, see if you can massage those points. Is that possible?
yes.
And you don't have to, but it might help to also bring your awareness to the abdomen, where we would usually place the other hand, but since that's not comfortable, we'll just bring our awareness there while you rub the tailbone. And in this case, it's okay for you to use both arms of the tailbone?
Mhm.
Okay, good, wonderful.
Mhm. Now, should I circuit locate first?
Now I would check what was the result first.
Okay. It feels a tad better, but not like not by much. It's not like noticeable. Like it may be a little bit better,
So maybe 1 point better.
maybe.
Uh-huh. Half a point perhaps.
I would say half a pound.
Okay. So that's still an indication. The muscle check is an indication that something happened. So we can just trust that even though the symptom hasn't changed right now, there has been a shift in the energy.
Mhm.
And to finish this particular technique, now we do want to go back and circuit locate tailbone to see that that's complete.
Okay. Okay, it is locking.
Okay, so at least on switching on, that's all we want to do for now because we don't want to overdo it. And in particular, you say, well, just checking it and doing the range of motion might be exacerbating the condition, making it worse. So we want to err on the side of doing the least amount, staying gentle, not making it worse, and trusting that, okay, we'll do this little bit without making it worse, and we'll see where that goes over time. Right now, nothing obvious, nothing dramatic, maybe same, maybe a little bit better, but perhaps with some time, without stressing it more, you'll see some more improvement.
Yeah, which happens like often that I don't see it right away, but like later in the day it's better, or like next day it's better. So that can definitely happen.
Okay, so that's great that you have that reference and
Mhm.
that, so you can have more faith in what we're doing, because it's better if we quit while we're ahead than do too much and make it worse. So I want to check with you, is that satisfying to just do the switching on? Or do you feel like, no, I can probably tolerate and I'd like to try a little bit more, something different. Maybe it'll be more effective to do something different.
Sure, that would be great as long as it doesn't aggravate.
Yes. So we're going to be especially careful, but I'm going to rely mostly on you and your self-awareness. If it seems to be aggravating, don't do that. Okay.
Got it.
So we did the zip up, we did the switch on. Now we're going to do the tune in. And I hear somebody's baby, which is a cute baby voice, but if you can mute your mic, that would be good for our recording. But I mentioned the figure eights for joint mobility and comfort, but another one that's great for range of motion and comfort is the auricular exercise. Now,
Okay.
you did do that earlier, and did you notice any result with auricular exercise?
Yeah, my upper arm like tightness and the pain was lifted. Like it was much easier to lift my arms. So I felt that in here. Not so much in this particular elbow.
Okay. So we're going to go back to the indicator muscle and get our baseline. It's locking.
Thinking about this left elbow, right?
Well, first we want to get the baseline that the
Oh, okay.
indicator
Just
muscle
to
is functioning.
clear. Okay.
And then we'll compare thinking about the elbow again.
Okay, it's locking and clear.
Okay, now think about the elbow or even do the range of motion with the elbow and then recheck gently without hurting it.
It still unlocks.
Okay, now it unlocks as you activate that stress. So
Mhm.
even if it is painful and stressful, sometimes when we're balancing, you'll come to a point where there's not the same indication of stress in the energy system, and that's an indication, well, maybe we should just leave it there for now. So there's an indication there's some stress, maybe there's something more to work with. So we could just go straight to the auriculars, or we can use the principle of circuit locating and just touch your right ear and then recheck the indicator.
It's locking. But both are locking.
Both are locking.
Mhm.
Okay, so that.
Oh wait,
Yes, go ahead.
let me redo again to, be aware of this elbow
Perfect.
and okay, it's unlocking.
Okay. So it could easily be that, because you've already done that earlier, we check it now.
Right. So I think it's in clear, it was fine, but then when it's against the elbow, no.
So we'll say the imbalance with the auriculars is more specific to what's going on with the elbow, not the ears by themselves. That's what that seems to indicate. So if it's comfortable for you to do it without making it worse in your elbow, do you want to go ahead and stretch your ears?
I'm gonna do one by one.
Yeah.
So I don't have to bend my elbow.
Excellent. That's very good self-care. And just notice how your ear feels, or if you feel any sensation anywhere in the body while you're stretching. Is it enjoyable to do that ear massage? So now she's doing the ear on the same side of the body of where she's having that pain for the elbow. And that might be the go-to one. If we were just going to do one quick thing, we might just do the ear on that side, assuming that that's kind of the affected side. Like if there's restriction turning to the left, we'd massage the left ear. If we have time, I always like to do both ears first and then maybe zero in on one ear if there's still an indication with the head turned to that side or the arm on that side.
Let me check. Yeah, I think it's better. I want to say by 1 point.
Okay, 1 point better. So
But
what's
it
the
is
number now?
better.
What's the number?
So what did I start with? So it was 6. Now it's about 5, 4.5.
Ooh, 1.5. Wonderful. I'll take it. So we're just going to
As long as I leave it, just leave it alone.
Yeah, you don't want to just start now, go play volleyball
Not
with
right now.
Yeah. So that's one of the things I say. Sometimes when we do this exact same exercise, exact same elbow pain, it suddenly feels better, or the next day it feels much, much better. But then I say, take it easy. Because if you haven't been using it to play volleyball and vigorous sports for a while, you want to ease back into those activities. It may be much more comfortable, but there still may need some healing, some time to heal, but now it's more comfortable in a better space for healing. So as you ease back into using it and the activities, take it easy, easing back into those activities. Don't overdo it right away. So going out and playing a lot of really physical contact sports, even if it feels much better tomorrow, I wouldn't recommend. But let's double check, because we circuit located to see if there was some involvement of the ear. So let's just double check.
It's locking. Both locking.
Both locking. So that's an indication we can leave it there. And of course, anytime you say, well, that's enough, whether it indicates or not, because we're in self-responsibility and we want to encourage you to be aware of yourself and make your choices. When you say that's enough, then we're done, regardless of the muscle test. But the muscle check seems to indicate we're complete with that. So any other feedback on that one, Akiyu?
It's interesting. I've never really used these techniques, like what we just did. So I love it, because these techniques I usually just kind of run it through really quickly, and I never really stop to really use it like this. And it's when it's used in this way, it just feels different. Needs a lot more. So, I appreciate this demo, and thank you very much. Because I've always really wanted to use this simple technique, but, more in depth, like what we just did. So this was great. Thank you so much.
Thank you for that feedback, Akiyo. And yeah, that's a very important observation. These are simple energizers that we learn right in the introduction to Touch for Health. But sometimes that's all that people learn, and they get a lot of benefit integrating it into their daily self-care. When they see something feels out of balance, they say, well, why? Oh, maybe it's just how I'm sitting in the chair. If I have a pain in my butt, if I look and there's a tack, I should get up and remove the tack. Don't just suffer through the pain. So first of all, it's just having that awareness. Oh, the point is to feel good. If I'm not feeling good, what can I adjust? My chair, how I'm standing, don't sit for too long, take breaks, drink water, and we have these simple exercises. And the reason why these are the simple energizers that we teach to people right in the beginning is not just that there's something very simple, baby steps to use, but they are, because they're easy, but also because these are things over all these decades and all these different kinesiology systems, they're baseline techniques that work. They're very effective. And so if we give them the proper time, their due time and respect, we can get amazingly good results even with these simplest things. Of course, there's more things we can do if we're not getting quite enough satisfactory result with that. We can be even more holistic, balancing overall. But I'm glad that you made that observation that we can go a long way with these simple things. So if this is your whole class of Touch for Health, and this is all you learn, if you utilize it, the most powerful technique is the technique that you use. If you don't use it, it doesn't matter how magical it is, you usually can't get the benefit. I know Wayne Topping says sometimes it's enough he remembers the technique. Remembering the technique just balances him just by remembering it. But most of us have to actually do the technique. So thank you for that. Now it's time, a little bit over time to go for a break, but are there any comments or questions? And I'm going to search for whose mic is open. Okay, did I find it? I think I found it. Okay. Before we go to the break, any comment or question? I'm not seeing a hand up. So let's take 10 minutes break, and then we'll try to fit within a 40-minute, a full Touch for Health session, more of a complete level 1 session where we talk about what's bothering you, talk about a positive goal, then do 14 muscles at a distance over the Zoom, which is the #1 thing most people ask for that they wanted to see. So if that's what you're excited about, please come back after the break. So we'll come back at 20 minutes after the hour. Okay, hello everybody. I'm back from the break. Having a little water. So I saw in the chat, a lot of people have given me their email. You can give it to me just privately if you don't want to share it with the whole group. If you want to get the link to the recording, I do need your email, so you can give that to me in the chat. There was one question, which was if someone, Debbie wrote, if someone says something hurtful to you that weakens your body, can you use the central meridian to zip up to bring your strength again, flushing it out of your body? And the short answer is yes, absolutely. If you're noticing something that someone else has said is affecting your energy, then first of all, notice that and say, well, that's something outside of me, and I don't have to choose to accept it and internalize it. Now, knowing that consciously sometimes makes all the difference, but sometimes it's not enough. We need to do something to balance our energy, how our energy is affected. And one of the simple self-defense with energy is zipping up central meridian. And if this is a street kinesiology, it's not in the Touch for Health book, but a common one I've heard a lot is when you're walking down the street and you see some character who you're getting kind of an aggressive vibe from them, you can zip yourself up and then zip them down, and you kind of break that energy connection so they're not attracted to you and you go on about your business. So yes, the other thing, of course, if you're being affected emotionally by circumstances, by someone else's, what someone said, they're not behaving the way you think they ought to behave. If you can reframe it to how you want to be in the situation, what's the part you can control, and then hold your emotional stress release points. A lot of the time, what you do is you get out of the survival reaction. You might not realize it, but the way your body's reacting to the hurtful words is you're reacting in a primitive survival way. So you're reacting as if that person was trying to kill you. So why it makes you feel bad, now that gives you an idea. Your body is thinking, this is trying to kill me. So if you can get out of that stress response and survival reaction, you may even be able to look at what they've said in another way. There might be even something constructive about it, or at least you can come to a neutral way where you can choose not to take it in and pay attention to it. So thanks for that question. The other question is, why is anterior deltoid such a good indicator muscle? Why is it the best indicator muscle? The answer is it's not necessarily the best indicator muscle, but it's a convenient one. So some muscles are more cooperative than others. It's convenient to test over and over. With a little bit of pressure, you can get an indication. They don't necessarily get too tired too fast. So anterior deltoid is a pretty universal one, easy to use. Upper trapezius, where you have to pull, I wouldn't recommend it because you could cause yourself pain after just a few tests of upper trapezius. So I would leave that muscle alone unless you're specifically trying to balance upper trapezius. So it's just a convenient one, an easy one to use, but lots of other muscles can be convenient and easy. Even the quadriceps muscle, let's see if I can get this where you can see, raising your leg like this big, strong muscle, you can shorten the fibers and see it's harder to hold, and lengthen the fibers and see easy to hold. So if your arm gets tired, you can bring your leg in. And if you have any conditioning at all, you might be able to tolerate quite a few tests before it tires out. But that's also a fact that if you're doing lots of testing, the muscle itself can get tired. So maybe you need a break. So that's why I usually just use one arm. And if this one's get tired, then I go to the other arm. By the time that one's tired, I can use this one again. So those were a couple of questions. We'll see about at the end. If there's more questions, I might just put them on the tape and give you the link. So now it's time for a 14 muscle balance. So I see Massey, she just happens to be in my upper left-hand corner, waving her hand, and I've been seeing her at the top. She's kept her video on. So in gratitude that I had someone to look at and see the video, I totally respect for people who wanted to turn their video off because they don't want to be on the recording. I would probably be one to do that myself if I'm watching a recording, but it's so helpful to me to be able to see your face and your responses. So as a gratitude to you, Massey, and just because you're also there handy at the top of the screen, I saw your hand. So you'd like to receive a balance? So go ahead and turn your mic on.
Hi.
How are you doing today?
Good.
So how's the class been going for you so far?
Very good. I liked it when you did the little balance with the girl that with the elbow, and just to, really do all the specifics that you can do, the like a little balance with those the points, central and meridians, and that was nice.
Yeah, it's like you can pick any one technique and it can be a mini session.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if it's enough, it's enough. Go about your life. Enjoy your day.
Yeah.
But I assume that even after all the balancing we've done, you could still somehow use more.
Yes. I was checking all the long. I was doing it with her. I still feel that I needed more.
Okay. Well, what has been your improvement so far personally for yourself, if any?
If there was improvement, I felt more energized, and my legs were really heavy, and now they're like a lot lighter.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
And what would you like better in our balance today?
I didn't know, but mine is more emotional.
How do you know it's more emotional?
Because I feel it.
Okay. But at first you didn't know that.
Yes, I did.
Oh, you did? Okay. I misheard you. I thought you said, I didn't know, but it was more emotional.
No. Yeah.
Okay. So you knew all along you got more emotional issue going on.
Yeah, but it through the day, it cleaned a little. Mm-hmm.
So what's the shift? What's the change so far? You said the legs are lighter and...
Yeah, and the head, it's less in a survival mode. Okay,
so you've gotten that. You can tell that you're some out of that fight-flight response. A little
still
bit.
there a little, but a lot less.
Okay. And what is it that you're feeling that gives you the indication maybe you're still a little bit in an alarm state?
I still feel the tightness around the heart, and I get it's like I have something right under in the lung, like I feel the mucus. I don't know how to say it, but
Okay.
sorry with my English.
Something stuck, something congested.
Yeah, congestion. Yeah.
Okay. So are those two different measures, or that's kind of one package?
I think it's a package.
Okay. So 0 would be none of that sensation, none of that sense of stress, alarm, and 10 would be just the maximum.
Yeah.
Where
Maybe a 7.
Okay. And do you think it would be helpful to you? Would you like to share anything about why you're having that, or would you just like to keep that private?
I could share.
Okay.
I'm
sure everyone will be interested, but you don't have to share.
I know it's something with empowering relations. I had a fight with my daughter a couple of years ago, and it's still there.
So a couple of years ago, you had this fight, but you're still emotionally affected by it now.
Yeah,
And
it went away, but it always, comes back. So it's
So-
not cleaned.
it's kind of an ongoing issue with you and your
Yeah.
daughter.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's as much as you want to say about it.
Like, you can ask questions. I don't know. We're in a fight now.
Now it's stressful. I don't even know where you are anymore. So you really brought it up.
Yeah.
So we can work with it. If it's already kind of overwhelming, you can go ahead and hold these points.
Yeah.
And of course, respect yourself. I could ask you questions. We might be fascinated for our own curiosity, but that's not what's important. It's what's important for you, for your expression and for your balance. Is there any more that you need to say about it? But if you don't need to, then we
But
don't.
I think it's been a long time going, a fight mode and through my life. But this one hit hard, and it's all the past that was always there.
So this is important, specific issue to balance. But when we balance that, it might help with kind of an ongoing pattern that's affected your whole.
Yeah.
Okay. So when we balance this issue or incident, but you say it repeats, so it's kind of an ongoing issue with your daughter.
Yeah.
That's more in balance. You're less going into an alarm mode. You're more into a space where you can reflect and choose how you want to respond, perhaps with love and acceptance.
Yeah.
Then what will be different? When you don't have this tightness in your heart, this congestion, what do you want to feel?
It would, I would be more myself.
Okay, so how much are you yourself right now? Thinking about speaking with your daughter and
Now I'm almost a 15.
15.
I don't feel
what,
well.
15 on what scale?
Higher than 10.
Okay, you mean being not yourself or being
Yeah.
really, really yourself? No, 15,
Not myself.
myself.
No.
So, that's something that can happen when we get in a fight-flight mode. We do things, they don't even go through our brain. We just react like
Boom.
someone's trying to kill us. And then
Yeah.
later we might be sorry about what we said or did. So
Yeah.
you're 15 on that alarm reaction just right now thinking about it.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm sad about it.
Okay, also sad. How sad are you?
Yeah. Maybe a 7.
7. Okay. So when you are more yourself and maybe less sad about it, at least the things in the past now can be in the past and you can move forward in a different way, how is your life going to be better?
Well, it's like a poof. Everything I'd be back to normal, back to not to have this pattern always come back. And
So you'd be back to normal, you'd be yourself, and it's not this type of pattern. So what would the pattern be instead? It's kind of a reaction pattern. What would you prefer?
I'll empower myself.
Okay. So maybe it's I am empowered and I am myself or something like that.
Yeah.
I am my empowered self.
Yeah, that would be good.
So an empowered self is not, if a lion's not actually chasing you, you're not in alarm reaction.
No.
You're staying in your center, you're grounded, you're coming from.
Yeah.
Okay, good. So right now, talking about this story, how much do you feel that you are right now your empowered self? Do you feel it at all?
Yeah, I feel it. But I can say maybe if I'm honest, a 3 on 10.
Fantastic. 3 is so much better than nothing.
Yeah, but I feel it.
You feel it, yes. And of course, there's some things that we would like to balance to improve how you're responding to the situation, how things are affecting you.
Yeah.
So good, we got that measurement. So that can be our goal statement. Are you familiar with that idea of a goal statement, positive goal statement?
Yeah.
We want a short statement that you can repeat a few times that we can recheck, that's phrased as if it's already true. And you say,
Okay.
it's partly true, at least the 3. So I am my empowered self. Does that sound like the right phrase?
Yeah, I
Okay,
think it would be,
perfect.
because that's what I wrote already since the beginning.
Oh, good. So we got back to the correct phrase.
Yep.
But now we know even more what that phrase means.
Yep.
What's involved?
Yep.
What's it going to
Mhm.
look like?
Mhm.
Wonderful. I'm even getting in. I'm already
Yeah.
getting enthusiastic about it.
Yeah.
Just setting the goal. Sometimes that's
Yeah.
the balance. It can make a
Yeah.
difference. But if something's still stuck related to that goal, now let's do the balance.
Yeah.
So we did a lot of the preliminaries that we would normally do in a session. We've already done that with the group. So we're not
Mhm.
going to check the accurate indicator. We're not going to zip up, switch on, tune
Yeah.
in. Although you might do that in every balance. And if that's enough, you don't need to balance more. Now we're moving on to the next step. So let's just check that indicator muscle again.
It's see, this one isn't.
Okay, so let's switch it on. Let's use our neurolymphatics for anterior deltoid.
These points are very sensitive.
Ah,
Since the beginning.
okay. So that could be just because that's your indicator muscle and what's going on in your life and the stress. Or it could be because we relate anterior deltoid to gallbladder, maybe a little bit specifically gallbladder energy.
I'm on.
Okay, that's switched on. Excellent. So now check the indicator and say out loud your goal. I am my empowered self.
I'm my powered self. It's
So you feel like getting floppy and bouncy.
Yeah,
So you got
it's,
your indication.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
good. So when people are self-checking, the indication always looks a little bit different. So it's good to know which is which.
Mhm.
All right. So now just set that aside for a moment and just go back, see if the muscle can lock in a neutral.
Yeah.
And would you be curious which 5-element emotion might be related to that goal?
Yeah.
Would you like to check it?
Yeah.
So just say would and recheck the muscle.
What? No.
Say fire.
Pardon me?
Fire.
Fire. Oh yeah, it is fire.
Okay.
It's
So we'll just assume it's fire and we'll go from there. So say joy.
joy. It's okay.
Okay, say love.
Love. Ooh.
Okay. So does it make sense that love might be the emotion that's kind of
Yeah.
key to this story? And I wasn't trying to put words in your mouth, but what was coming
No.
into my mind
Yeah,
is you
understand.
wanting to come from a place of love
Yeah.
and acceptance. And so maybe intuitively I was getting the right idea. I like to follow my intuition, but I also like to check it out with the person.
Yeah.
And sometimes muscle checking gives us some information too.
Mhm.
Okay, so do we need to talk any more about why love might be involved, or that's enough information?
But I think it's there because it's my daughter.
Yeah.
And and I don't want this relationship with her. I don't want, like, she's 23, the buildup that we did just go.
Yeah. So we're going to work on your part in it, and then
Yeah.
just trust that.
Oh, I think it's my part.
Yeah. Okay. So, and love seems to be a key emotion.
Yeah.
So now we'll go ahead and balance 14 different muscles on both sides of the body. So actually it's 28 muscles to get the posture in a better balance, get your attitude in a better balance, but also each muscle relates to one of the main energy pathways. So we'll get your life energy in a balance for being your empowered self, which actually when your energy is in balance, that's your true self. That should be your natural state, your empowered self. And sometimes it takes some work to get back to that and rediscover it. Balancing is part of it, and it gets you on that road.
Okay.
Okay, so a little bit different than anterior deltoid is supraspinatus muscle. So it's the same range, but with the palms towards the groin and going in this direction. So now I've pinned us both so everybody can see what's going on with both of us, or at least on the video, we're both on there. So you did the range. How does that feel? And if you don't mind, keep your mic on so you can respond a little bit as we go along. Massey, can you turn your mic on?
Yeah, sorry, I touched it. Yeah, they're good. It feels light.
Feels good. You want to also check it in the contracted position?
Oh, this one is
Okay. So sometimes just the range
Yeah.
and all the information, the actual muscle test of contraction gives us something else. So sometimes it might be worth doing both. So if you'll rub right here next to the shoulder, this is the neurolymphatic point related to supraspinatus. So these are the basic 14 muscles that if you find your local Touch for Health instructor and take the class, these are the muscle tests that you'll be learning in level 1. And now recheck that side that was off. Better? Okay,
Yeah.
next one, Terry's major, otherwise known as chicken wings.
That's not good.
Not
That's
so
not-
good?
This one. This is
Okay,
yeah, that's tough. This one.
so for Terry's major, let's rub these points up here. And so even on my homepage, if you look at the neurolymphatic points, you can get the neurolymphatic points for each of these muscles. But if I'm looking in the book, let's see, governing Terry's major, I can see where these points are located. And if you can reach the points at the back, fine. If not, don't worry about it. But these ones are around T2, so I can reach and rub those. See again how it feels.
A lot better.
A lot better. Now this
Yeah.
one's hard to reach around and muscle check, but if you bring it a little bit forward, you can get some indication. It seems easy to hold there. This one I tend to more just go by the range of motion.
Yeah, that's good.
Okay, good. So now the next one is pectoralis major clavicular for stomach meridian. Can try one at a time to see if there's a difference. You can also put it in contraction. The pec muscle is contracting. Yeah.
This side is a little heavier than this side.
Okay, different than the other side. So the neurolymphatic point for pectoralis major clavicular is on the left side between the 5th and 6th ribs. So it's kind of where the underwire tends to go. So if you have an underwire, you might need to move it out of the way to get into that space between the ribs. And let's see how it feels again.
Yeah, it's better.
And you can just double check applying pressure to see if it's locking.
Yeah, they're locking.
Good. So the next one is latissimus dorsi for the spleen meridian. We sometimes call it the penguin because it has this like penguin wings. The thumbs you rotate back, straight arms against the body. And then you can even try to get your fingers in here and see if it wants to unlock.
Yeah, it's all this side.
Okay, right. So far everything right side. So maybe that has a little bit of a energetic or metaphorical meaning. But while you contemplate what right side might mean, you can also go on the left side of the body, rub between the 7th and 8th ribs. There's an indentation in the ribs there. Find that and rub. How does that feel? Is it tender at all?
Yeah, it's tender.
Okay, so that's an indication you found the right spot.
Yeah.
Some of these spots, they're not tender, even though sometimes they are. So thumbs back, arms against the body, do the range. How does it feel?
Yeah, it's good.
Good. Did you check?
Yeah.
Locking?
It doesn't go up now.
Okay,
They're locked.
I missed that step. You're quicker than I am.
Sorry.
Good. So we can be, once we've learned this, in the demo, I'm going a little bit methodical, but once both people are familiar with it, it can actually go quite quickly. You can balance 14 muscles in 5 minutes. So it doesn't have to be a long process, even though it can still be quite a profound session. So the next one is subscapularis, that muscle under the scapula, which we relate to heart meridian. So checking this range of motion. And also, even though it's not that stabilized, you can still get some indication pushing the arm forward. Does it feel like it locks?
It's on the left now.
So now this time it's on the left side, and that's up here between the ribs. Between the second and third ribs here. So I was rubbing a couple of spaces. It doesn't hurt to do more, but you want to get the correct one, because usually the correct one works better than the other ones. But even if you rub the wrong point, sometimes you get the right result. So don't worry too much about being too precise. And you're rubbing back there again at T2, both sides of the spine.
Okay, sorry, I thought that was what you were showing me.
Oh, you saw it in the book. Good
Yeah.
job. Excellent.
Sorry. Yeah.
That's good. So now we'll check these again, see if they feel the same on both sides. In particular, the left, does it lock?
Yeah, it locks.
Feels good? Okay, now in this position, fingers point down. That reminds me, I'm going to go down to the legs. So for quadriceps, you're going to bring the leg up like this and then push it back down. So first see how it feels just going through the range of motion, whether that's comfortable or not. If it's different on left and right, and then push.
Oops. I blocked Congress.
It was locking
Oh,
both.
sorry, it locked. My computer locked.
Oh, the computer locked, but what about the leg?
They're good.
Okay, yours are fine. I'm rubbing my points because mine hurt a little bit.
Okay.
So I'm just doing a little balancing on myself as we go along for that steps on the right side. So thank you for doing it in solidarity with me. Most of the time, I don't do my own balancing in the middle of your balance, so excuse me for that, but that did make it feel a little bit better, so thank you for that moment. So the next one is the peroneus muscle. Are you actually already familiar with the peroneus muscle?
Yeah, but I don't remember. Yeah.
Okay, so you don't have to move your camera, but I'm going to show on my foot. If you can see my foot, the angle is to bring the foot up and out like this without rotating the hip. Just bring the foot up and out. It's an ankle muscle. And then if I sit down, oops, my table is in the way. This is where it gets, this is the trickiest one to get on the camera correctly. Sorry, technical difficulties. Let's see. Okay, there it is. Now I can reach down and push it down in it. So this one is kind of hard to self-test. If you have a friend to push on your foot, it's a lot easier. But anyway, we can do something. How did that feel?
The muscle was locked, but the motion on the right is not, is so.
Okay, so that's interesting. It was a reverse of what previous, like it felt okay, but it didn't lock.
Yeah.
But both of those are an indication. So for the peroneus muscle on the bladder meridian, I can show you these points. If you can see that, it's the top edge of the pubic bone and both sides of the navel. And then I think you see also it's the point, the hip bone, the knobs on the hip bones on the back. So you might be able to reach those also. And now, yeah, just check the range of motion because that's the only thing. Does it feel?
Yeah,
okay.
that's it. They're good. They go really well.
Wonderful. Okay, so the next one is another leg one. We can go through a few leg ones. So for the psoas muscle that goes from the low back down to the leg, it helps lift the leg. Let's see if I can show that a little bit better here. So this is the range of motion. You bring the leg, point the toe out and go out 45 degrees, and then the leg goes out and back 45 degrees. So you might want to hang on to something because you're standing on one leg, doing kind of like this soccer kick motion.
The left side, the motion isn't well.
Okay, so rub both sides of the navel. And then recheck the left side.
Yeah, not a solid. Yeah.
Feels better?
Yeah.
Okay, so now we're going to do gluteus medius, which helps bring the leg straight to the side, just directly to the side.
It's like a robot.
Feels like a robot? It doesn't feel natural?
No.
Okay, so for gluteus medius, circulation sex, like with peroneus, it's the pubic bone, but in this case, just the pubic bone, not the point next to the navel. So that's the top edge of the pubic bone here. Is that tender at all?
No.
No?
It's the back. It's in the back that's more tender.
Okay, that's interesting. So you saw those knobs on the hip. I hadn't even mentioned that. That's very good stuff.
Yeah. It's more like a feather now.
Okay, light as a feather. That's wonderful. I'm sorry about the trash truck going in the back. I'm gonna close the window real quick.
Okay.
Oh yeah, that helped a lot. Got rid of some of that noise. Sorry about that noise. So we're kind of going in a set order of the muscles, which actually follows the energy flow in a 24-hour cycle through the different energy pathways, the meridians. But for convenience, because we were doing legs, we're just going to do we're going to jump out of sequence and we're going to do the last leg one, and then we're going to go back to the sequence. So this one is kind of like the psoas muscle, but instead of foot rotated out and coming out here, foot is rotated in and it comes out 45 degrees, and we push it back down to the other side.
No, the motion isn't well.
Did you try pushing on it?
It's like heavy.
Okay, so this is the one where you rub the whole sides of the leg and the whole low back. All in here, in the whole low back, not just the knobs on the hip, but the whole soft muscular part of the low back and all along the sides of the legs, which sometimes can be quite tender. How does that feel for you?
It locks.
Okay, excellent. Next one, teres minor for triple warmer meridian.
Now went back on the right.
Going back on the right doesn't.
Down.
It's the rotation of the arm. So like you're slapping somebody here.
Yeah, okay.
And then you're going to pull it this way. The contraction is here.
The right.
Pull this way.
Do I put my hand this side or this side?
On the back of the arm.
Oh, sorry.
There you go.
Okay. They're locked.
It locked. Okay, good. Let's try good old anterior deltoid. Now we're doing anterior deltoid in sequence, more specifically for gallbladder meridian, not as a general indicator.
They're locked.
Okay, now let's try pecs again, but going up and out. This is for liver meridian.
That. That's not good.
Okay, so if it's both sides, if you had a friend to stretch the spine, the skin over the spine at T5, that would be good, but that's inconvenient to reach for yourself. Or can you reach it? Between the
I don't know, where is it? Can you show me on with the book? To see?
Yeah.
I think it's far.
Where that is on the book. So I'm going to my liver tab, and the spinal reflex is halfway down the shoulder blades, right between the shoulder blades.
I can get there.
Can you?
Yeah, let's come there.
That would be uncomfortable for me, so I would just do the neurolymphatic point. But if you can reach that comfortably, that might be quicker. The spinal reflex tends to balance both sides. And then let's recheck.
Yeah, the motion is very nice now.
Okay. Do you want to apply the pressure, see if it locks?
Pardon me?
Do you want to apply the pressure and see if it locks?
I push on top or?
Here, and I'm pushing up and down.
So I put my hand on top.
Degrees right in front. Yep, and then you're pushing up and down.
Yeah, I did that. Where do you put the pressure?
You start here, and then the pressure is on the inside lower part of the arm to push up. You push from here.
Yeah, it's very nice. It's like more like a feather more.
Okay, excellent. Last one. This is anterior serratus muscle for lung, and lung happens to flow out the thumb right here. So thumb up for lung. And then you're going to, this is the crucial part, is to extend the shoulder and then push down. So just try this range of motion first, extending the shoulder. How does that feel? And then chopping. Extending shoulder without rotating the torso, just extending shoulder. And how does it feel? And then put some pressure to push it straight down.
Oh, where do I put the pressure? Sorry, I wasn't looking.
Top of the arm to push it straight down.
Okay, and that's, oops. This one is bumpy.
That one's bumpy. Okay, let's go back to these points between the ribs on the front.
Oh, the points, starting ones.
But now we're sending energy more to this particular muscle and its related lung meridian.
Okay. Yeah, they're locked.
Okay, so that's 14 muscles, actually one on each side, so 28 muscles. So just take a moment to check in with your posture and your energy. How are you feeling? We've been gone on a bit of a journey here through all these muscles.
I like standing. Okay. Well,
What's that? You feel better?
yeah, a lot better.
How do you feel now?
More lightly, not in a fight mode.
Lightly, not fight. Flight.
Not at all.
Okay. How is your heart feeling, that tightness around the heart?
I don't feel it.
Zero, at least for now, it's zero. Maybe it'll never come back, or if it does, you have some tools you can use.
Yeah.
But hopefully it's going to be reduced or maybe eliminated. Maybe you don't need that tightness in your heart.
No.
What about saying, I am myself. Well, we ended up measuring 15 on the I am not myself scale.
Oh no, it's like I came back. It's like whoosh.
Okay. So wait,
I'm back.
I want to jump actually to the goal statement.
Yeah.
Check your indicator muscle and say, I am my empowered self.
I am my empowered self. Oh
Oh,
Yeah.
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 Say love and check the indicator.
Pardon me?
Say love.
Love. Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
Now that we know that, we've confirmed that. That's kind of a way to confirm our balance is complete. If there was still some inhibition on the goal, we might stop and do some emotional.
Yeah, but I don't feel.
But you're
No.
good. So as far as you're not yourself, that's not the case anymore. That's a zero.
No, it's.
And how much are you feeling? I am my empowered self.
It's like I'm back on track. I don't know how to say.
Back on track.
Yeah, it's like woo.
Can we put a number on that 0 to 10, or does that even make sense to put a number?
Oh, it's a big 0. I'm okay.
So what you can put whatever number you like that works for you. I usually say for the positive goal, 10 is the best.
Oh yeah, I would have said 100, but I thought it was the other way
I'll
around.
take it. 10
Sorry.
times before.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's like woo.
Okay. And how much sadness are you feeling right now?
Oh, I even forgot it.
Forgotten.
Yeah. I didn't remember the sadness at all. That's why I think I didn't need this. It's like.
Yeah. So now that's great. But one other thing that comes to my mind for this particular balance is visualize yourself getting in touch with your daughter. What's her name?
Anushka?
Anushka?
Yeah.
So just think about interacting with Anushka and what is the state that you want to be in when you interact with her, and recheck your indicator.
It's like I'm back on track with her. That's how I feel.
Back with Anushka. Wow. And do you want to?
It's like woo. I feel the connection.
Muscle?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Solid. Back on track.
It's really solid.
Okay. Is there anything else you want to say about that experience, that balance?
It's. I think I really needed it because I was using the tools, but I needed a third person.
Yeah, we can use a lot of this stuff for ourselves and it can take us a long way. But when you have another human being there, and not in a judgmental role, but as a supportive role, it makes such a huge difference.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Thank you. It's like woohoo.
Wonderful. Thank you, Massey.
Thank you.
Okay, so we've kind of come to the end of our time. And so, but if you need to go, I totally understand. We've scheduled these 4 hours and it's 4 hours and 1 minute. But if there are any comments or questions, I'm willing to stay on a little bit longer to check in with people. You can raise a hand if you want to ask a question or make a comment. There might have been 1 or 2 comments in the chat. And whether you stay on or not, I'm going to look for those and I'll record my answer. So I'm not actually seeing any questions here. And I'm seeing a lot of people are just going ahead and logging off. So in that case, Krista, you have a question. And then I see Marcus.
Thank you. That was great. My question is, maybe I missed it. So she did the statement and then there was the love. And I might have missed it. Was she holding that intention? So you just did the testing, you captured what was to be worked on, the statement and the word love. Was she holding that intention each time, just throughout the process, or did you just sort of park that and then now we focus on the muscle test?
Yeah, that is the idea, that's the focus of the balance. And it's kind of anchored by the muscle test. But if I start getting funny results from the test or nothing's unlocking, and I suspect she's floated away somewhere else, then I might bring her attention back to the focus of the goal. And usually the conversation as we go along, I keep relating it back to the goal, create a little bit of discussion, dialogue, maybe throw in some possible metaphorical meanings as we go along. So we stay with that focus.
Okay, so you're keeping that, you know, because that does have an energy alive to it, the statement. And if she's then shifts her mind, is just really focused on the muscle, then that can kind of go away. So you do bring that back in and say, remind them to hold that intention
Yeah, I find
or
most
that
of the time,
statement.
yes, that's what we're trying to do. But I find
Okay.
most of the time it's not necessary to remind them that much. Some
Okay.
people actually repeat the goal on each muscle test.
Oh, yeah.
My
Okay.
experience is if we've done a good goal balancing and that's clear in the mind, that usually sticks with them through all the muscles. And what I'm seeing with the muscles is related to that issue, that goal.
Great. Thank you. That's the clarification I need, is how much are you holding that? You don't need to say it every time. Just, okay.
I
Thank
don't
you.
have that idea. Some
And I
people,
just want to say thank you for the class. It was really great and informational, and I appreciate it.
thank you for coming. And I saw Marcus's hand there. Marcus, you have a question or a comment?
Hey, Matthew. Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to thank you as well. I found it very easy and clear to learn from you in the way that you presented it. And this is my first major introduction to Touch for Health. I have looked at other systems. So I had a couple of questions. One big one being, when would be the date for the next step going into level 1 and 2 and beyond? I think we did briefly talk about that. And then the other question is that I had is in other systems of applied kinesiology, I've seen other self-testers do things like the ring and doing like a kickstand and doing different things. Is that something that could still be used as an indicator, or is that kind of frowned upon?
That's interesting choice of words, frowned upon. Let's see, I'm trying to put the answer to your first question in the chat.
Okay, thank you.
So Friday, the 13th of August, 2 weeks from now, is the next intro on a Friday. But if you've already had this, then you can skip that or take it again. And then the 14th and 15th is when I'm doing the level 1. So I have scheduled that. I do have to go on my website and change the buttons. But if you're just really excited and want to go up there and sign up, if you sign up for the one that was tomorrow, it won't be tomorrow. It will be in 2 weeks. But just put a note when you sign up that it's for in 2 weeks, and I'll know. Anyway,
Okay, thank you.
sign up. Then you said there's other ways of testing, whole
Right.
variety of ways people do for self-testing. And it's just a matter of how much practice is needed to be effective with that. So we try to stay as close to the way we test in Touch for Health when we're working with a partner. So we use anterior deltoid. We don't usually use these two muscles that create the grip test. It's to me, this could be a convenient one, but pushing on it with my own fingers, I don't find it as easy as pushing on this one. So yes, those could be perfectly good indicators. It's just a matter of what's easy for your use, what seems clear to you.
Okay, that helps. Thank you.
Okay, so let's see, I'll go back to my gallery. Were there any other questions? I'm gonna hunt in the end if there were some questions in the chat. But otherwise, and if you want to hang on while I go looking through there, that's fine. But otherwise, I'll say thank you very much to everyone for coming. Oh, I see. I'm sorry if your name is Tan Tek Chuen. Can you pronounce it for me?
Yes. What was happened with the both muscle are unlocked, then we cannot rub ourselves by the spinal massage. So what was the choice to do?
So the first choice, ideally, you have a friend who rubs it for you. But if you do not have a friend, then that point is not available, but there's many other points. So just do the neurolymphatic points. Most of the time that will work. You might need to rub it a little bit longer. Maybe it's not as quick or efficient as the spinal reflex, but we can use other points.
So should I use the indicated muscle to choose the point or no need?
You can choose ahead of time. What I tend to do is if it's unlocking on both sides, I go to spinal reflex. Unlocking on one side, I use neurolymphatic. And in level 1, that's the procedure. When you learn more reflexes, you can circuit locate the point to indicate, well, which point will switch it on. So you can choose.
Okay, clear. Thank you.
Okay.
Amazing for your presentation. Thanks.
For your question.
Thank you.
Okay.
So I go to sleep now. So
okay.
bye.
Sweet
Yeah,
dreams.
good night. Thanks. Bye.
So I'm looking if there's any other hands, any other questions before we sign off. It looks like half the people have already signed off because we're done to the end of the time. And I don't see any more hands. So I'll just finish saying thank you all for coming. You heard, you have my website, I believe. Everybody has my website, touch4health.com. The 4 is a number 4. So you can see what my dates are and so forth on there. So otherwise, find your local Touch for Health instructor or practitioner and dive in there. And I hope to see you again. Maybe if you liked this and you want to do it again, we can do it next in 2 weeks, Friday again. Or you could even, if the timing works out for you, you could even do the whole level 1 online with me. But as I say, there's lots of instructors around the world. So it's good to find and support your local instructor. So I'm just going to read through these. And if there's any more questions, I'll answer them for the tape. But otherwise, I'll say goodbye to everybody. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
There was a question from Massey, so I'll give her this link. What would be Massey's homework assignment? So some people really in every session like to give some kind of homework. Oops, I'm on the group view. Maybe I want to put the speaker view. So I don't necessarily give a homework. It's more like when we feel like we're not totally finished or there's more to do, but that's all we have time for. So what is the next thing they can do for themselves? Or what is the thing that they can take with them to reinforce? So what was most effective for Massey in that experience? What was really most beneficial for her? And what tools does she have already that she's confident with that she could use? So I would talk about, okay, she's locking on talking about when she goes and has a conversation with her daughter. So that's great. Maybe the stress won't come back, but the homework would be if that stress comes back, talking with her daughter, Anushka, or talking with some other person. If she feels herself going back into that fight flight space where she's not herself at all, what simple tool, powerful but simple tool does she have to bring herself back into her center? I saw Isabel put, this is universal, is so amazing, it's so simple, but so much we can do with this, especially now that she's had a balance to anchor in her empowered self. It's easy to come back to that state when she knows that's where she wants to go, and she can use this to get out of fight flight. So I think that would be the homework I would give Massey in this case. That's the one that comes to mind. And of the 4 people who are still on here, does that bring up any other questions? Oh, there's actually 15 people on here or something. I can't do math for visual space. So I'm going to look through the comments, see use of the book. Somebody said Matthew's very great. Thank you. Helpful information. You're welcome. Love the recap. Awesome. Several people apparently don't have the book yet. Okay, yeah, go out and get the book. Several people said they're going to get the book. That's a good idea. There's so much information in there. And so that will help you to review. But almost everything we talked about on here is on my webpage. So you can just go to the techniques tab. And if that's your only reference, at least you have some reference there to everything we talked about. We talked about if someone says something hurtful, and some people had to go early. I think I might have found all the questions. The only other question is, how do I get the recording? And to get the recording, you see on my picture, actually, on my image, my email. So you can send me an email to my name, matthewthie@gmail.com, and I'll send you the link. Or if it's in the chat, I'm going to save the chat and I'll have your email also. Yep, I think that's all the questions. So thank you for those of you who stayed on over the time to give me someone to look at and feel your energy. And I'm going to sign off for now. So have a good rest of your day or the rest of your evening. Sweet dreams and enjoy your life.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Takako.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Kundi.
Thank you.